It's officially spoopy season, and you know that means 3 important things are about to happen. 1, we can once again don our cultist robes every evening. 2, we can sacrifice the lives of nice farm animals for the betterment of our gods. And 3, we can crack the luscious, luscious dew of the mystery flavor on the podcast known as
Trapped Under Plastic, the podcast where painting minis is secondary to crushing your 12-year-old opponents. Absolutely, dude. They need to freaking learn the important lesson of losing, okay?
Yeah.
I had to do it. Everyone has to do it, okay? That's how it works.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to it. All right, I'm currently wrestling with my microphone, but let's get into the Preamble Ramble. I put a little poll out on my Patreon. I'm going to start doing this once a month. I want to make 1 model painting video a month at the very least, and every time I do it, my patron is they're gonna vote on, I think, probably like 4 or 3 options that I put up on my site. And so I put up 4 options. I put a mini in the Star Wars universe, a mini in the Dune universe, an old world miniature, and a Lord of the Rings miniature. Of that poll, what do you think won?
Fuck.
Dune, Star Wars, old world,
Not Dune.
Lord of the Rings.
I'm going either old world or Star Wars. You recently did a Star Wars.
Yeah, I did a Star Wars.
You did a Star Wars recently. I'm going to say old world. I'm an old world. Final answer.
That's a great guess. The answer is Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings won. I did not anticipate that at all, but it doesn't matter. All 4 of the options I put in there are things I want to paint. That's the secret.
Yeah, that's the key. You
Yeah.
don't fucking put BattleTech in it. Bullshit.
Yeah, so I think it's a great way for people to have a bit more agency in the channel, and a great way for me to still paint things that I'm interested in painting. And so, yeah, I'm shocked. I never paint Lord of the Rings models on my channel. So the fact that there is enough of an audience that wants it in my patronage means that it has to be bigger outside of that too, right? So I picked up some Easterling models. They have these really awesome fine cast kits. But there's a kit that comes with 2 named characters, and it looks freaking sweet. So yeah, I'm gonna paint those guys up.
So they're the ones that show up when Jesus rises on the 8th day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with gold, incense, and myrrh. No, that's the birth. Never mind.
Yeah. No, the resurrection. Yeah, that's where Easter comes from.
Yeah.
From the Easterlings.
Okay, sure.
That's okay. Good on you for finding. It's a new model, right?
It looks like a new model. It's not a plastic kit, but the paint job and the box art look like that new Faramir model. They look like modern GW figures, but it is fine cast, so it's gonna come with bazillions of gates and reliefs and all kinds of stuff. But if I showed you the model, which I'll do right now, I think you would think it's a banging model. Here, these 2 goons. I'm gonna do Spear Boy because I think he's definitely the better of the 2.
Oh shit! Yeah, that looks pretty darn good quality,
Right?
I mean, it's clean. It's not overly bullshittery.
Yes.
It certainly doesn't look like it's made of the old metal ones.
No. So maybe it's a new mold.
It could be cast in fine cast, but a new sculpt.
Yeah.
New-ish sculpt, right?
Yeah.
Not a 2002 sculpt. Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna paint that model in October. That was the October poll.
Are you gonna put some little Easter eggs down underneath that rock? Someone's got to find.
He squirts out Easter eggs, dude.
It's in the lore. Fuck. Okay, that's interesting. So, I think you did the most important factor is you gave them the options of shit you already wanted.
Yes.
And you already have some form of at least a general idea around a video idea for each of them, or that's not the stressor for you.
I don't have a shtick or an angle or anything like that. I think a lot of the models, like when I painted Zalatath, that World of Warcraft bust, I didn't have a thing that I thought about. I thought just the idea of me getting to paint a model for Blizzard was enough to carry that video. But that's kind of how I often feel about model painting videos nowadays, is that they don't really need an angle to work for me. I largely do them because kind of people expect it, and also because I want to keep painting models for the hobby. And so it's a little bit too much pressure to try to think of a unique perspective each time. If it comes naturally, then I'll definitely lean into it, but I'm not going to force anything.
Yeah. I operate the exact same way.
Cool.
I started my channel, I thought I had to have this really hot take or really specific like bullet point.
New technique, maybe.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to highlight. And those things seem to like come organically to you. Either while you're painting something for this project, you're like, oh gosh, I'm really finding some interesting shit going on with like these speed paints. I want to explore that more in a video. Make a note of it, write it down on my video idea list or whatever. I don't like force that to happen. The other cool thing that I found is that oftentimes I don't know about the order that you do, but I do the whole painting before I write my script. And sometimes, oftentimes, more often than not, the real meat and interesting things in things that the video becomes happen because of the exploration through the painting. And then it's like, well, then you have that much more like enthusiasm or kind of drive for what the video is about because you just have gone through it and there's things you want to share, things you want to impart, things that you learned, things you fucked up on it. So I think that's great. Just go with the thing that excites you to paint. It'll figure itself out.
Absolutely. You cannot write a whole script for a paint job until the paint job is fully done because you are always going to experience things that you didn't anticipate, and it's going to inform what you write. So yeah, definitely paint first. Maybe I'd write like an intro, like if I have like a really solid idea for like what this video is going to be about, like my video about how I paint kill teams had like a really strong purpose. And so like I knew what the intro, like the first minute was going to be before I started painting. But otherwise, yeah, you got to paint and then write.
Just let it fly. Now, in today's Preamble Ramble, Scott's going to have some interesting grease trip stories,
yes.
Which is actually very fortuitous because I don't have a lot for Preamble Ramble.
Excuse me? Is hell fucking freezing over?
I did want to share a little bit about Space Marine 2 because that's hit the world by storm.
Absolutely.
And all these fucking video game nerds.
Dude, I bought that game with my own money, with my own hobby money.
Focus Entertainment sent me the game for free, which was very nice of them. And it was the PS5 version. I do not own a PS5. So I gave it to Sexy Teeth Joshy because he owns a PS5.
Did you ask for like a computer one or an Xbox 360 one?
No, I didn't ask.
Okay.
I didn't ask. I felt bad because they sent me the video card to give away, which was very, very nice of them. They sent me the big collector's box. And in the game that they sent was the regular version of the game. And then they sent me the collector's box that has the steel cover or the steel case for the game. Also the PS5 version. I open it up and there's no game in it. So there's also no redemption code. It was just an empty case.
You're like, yeah, I'm being grateful right now.
Yeah,
but things are not lining up here.
Right. Because that one I was going to give to Dan.
Okay.
It was like I was going to just give away the Space Marine things, or it's the fancy steel case one. I could also just give that away to viewers too, but there's no game. I mean, I could pass on the disappointment to somebody else, not tell them there's no game.
What a really nice box.
Yeah, they also gave me obviously the big fancy statue, which we're going to talk about what we painted, but also in that collector's edition box is this, and it is the art and making of Space Marine 2. A hardcover art book, and it's got some of those things in video games where it's a lot of the stuff in here is just kind of gross. I keep hitting the microphone. I'm sorry. Where they like show you renders of shit from the game that look god awful terrible. I want to put it here. Maybe Alex can zoom in because I am giving this book to Dan as a gift.
Oh, Dan loves art books.
Yeah, and this one is very hard to get, so I'm like, oh, Dan, you can have it. But it does have some awesome stuff in the scenery stuff. The scenery sections of art books for video games are always my favorite thing. So like, let's see if I can find a good page here while I keep hitting the microphone.
You are right though. When you take a 3D model out of a video game's environment and you just like put on like a solid background, it kind of looks a little goofy though.
Yeah. So I'll hold this one up. Maybe Alex can zoom in. But this is just a couple of different scenes of like the environment for the game, but they're all like artist rendered, look more like paintings, and that kind of thing for figuring out color schemes, figuring out lighting, figuring out an environment, like creating a diorama, creating an army board, that kind of stuff. Like, especially in the Warhammer universe, we don't often get to see things like this within the scope of Games Workshop. Like, you have art pieces that Games Workshop produces for like covers of their boxes or inside of their battle tomes and stuff, but they're typically a focus on one faction or a single character or whatever, and you can see the environment. In the environment, you can get a lot from that, but they're not like the whole purpose of these 20-some pages in this book are just really about the world itself. Take the living things out of it and just see what the world is like. And that is super cool. And so I was like, oh, this feels pretty unique and pretty cool. I'm sure there's something else out there that exists, but it's a pretty neat kind of book to have. But yeah, you're looking through like the rhinos and shit and stuff, and I'm just like, I could care less. And they look, a lot of times the pre-renders and shit, they're not the final versions, and they look like garbage. They don't even look as good as they look in the game. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think it comes down to that context. You take it out of its like murky, gray, war-torn environment, and you look at it on a solid black background. It just looks kind of goofy. But yeah, you're right. There aren't a lot of just purely art-focused like media that GW makes. Like, they used to make that Warhammer Visions magazine that was like all just painting and art-focused stuff. But I think a long time ago they used to make this thing called like, I have like an Empire heraldry book, which is like all about like the different states of the Empire. But even that's like faction focused, right? So there's not a lot of art books.
I tracked down a PDF version like on I wouldn't call it the dark web, but some like unscrupulous place on the internet of the full PDF of the old Skaven heraldry book.
Oh yeah,
this is part of my process of figuring out how I was going to do my army and all that kind of stuff. And yes, oh my God, though, looking back at that, it's so rough. Like, they had a dude with colored pencils and just like an elementary school notebook. It looked like he was drawing those fucking rats and the stuff. There's not a lot of high quality art in those, but it does give you a bunch of like breakdowns of symbolism and color schemes.
Color schemes, yeah.
Very, very basic color schemes and stuff. It's like, this one they use the gray and the red and the cream. Like, oh wow, surprise. But there's something. Yes, they're value, but like modern days,
not much.
Modern days. So have you played Space Marine 2 yet?
I have played it. I played it and then I stopped playing it because it was too good to play alone. The game is like built from the ground up to be a co-op experience. Like, even from the versus multiplayer to playing the campaign to playing something called operations, which are like side quests in the campaign.
Do you have little tweezers, and if you get it in the wrong spot, it buzzes?
Yeah. That's what happens.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Fun mini game.
Yeah. So basically, I want to play it with friends, and I have a friend in mind that I want to play with before I move any further. Because like, one thing I hate about co-op video games, especially like Vermintide and like Darktide, and this is definitely a me problem, is I don't want to be carried, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to go into that game with someone who's played it for 50 hours and I played it for like 5, and like I'm walking into an instance and they're fucking wasting every rat, every cultist, and I'm just doing nothing. Like, I don't want to fast track to like the highest level. I want to play the game and learn the game and feel like I'm meaningfully like contributing to like the party.
Yeah.
You know that?
It feels two negative things happen because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The first one is like it totally like, you have no idea the difficulty level or how of the game because you just feel like the version of the game that I'm playing is not the real version.
Yeah. Exactly.
You just don't really know.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I feel so rushed because they've experienced it already. Even if they're not rushing, even if they want you to do everything and they take it slow, I like inside of me, I feel rushed. Like I feel like I need, oh gosh, he's killing everything so fast. So I got to run up and try to stab some rats real quick to do something.
Yeah.
And just the game just feels like it's going quicker and I don't get to like absorb and appreciate.
Yeah, and like look for like some of the hidden items in the level because they know where all of them are, and so there's no point in looking. I hate that so much, and so for the benefit of my friends, I stopped playing it because I didn't want to get really good at the game and then like carry them. I wanted to kind of experience it with them, but it feels annoying because I want to play it and because it's good. It's a really good game. I enjoyed Space Marine 1, even though I don't enjoy the concept of Space Marines. The video game it just leans so hardcore into its theme, and it does it so freaking well. It's kind of like Doom Eternal Light in a way. It's a little bit deeper, more complex of a combat system. There's parrying, there's dodging, there's like combos and stuff like that. And I love kind of like action RPG games, kind of like that.
It feels like a Gears of War clone to me.
Oh, definitely. I've never played Gears of War, but it looks a lot like it.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Gears of War?
Yes, I played 1 and 2 because they were like, amazing, innovative games at the time. But I've kind of followed the series, but I haven't played it since then. But looking at stuff of Gears of War 5, and there's a lot of side-by-sides now that are going out of Space Marine 2 and Gears of War 5. And it looks mirrored. But I don't know if that's good, bad, or otherwise. I'm just saying it looks very similar.
Which is a good game.
Yeah. You can like turn your Space Marine into whatever chapter you want, right?
Not for the campaign, but for multiplayer, yes, and also for this thing called operations, which is a really cool thing. So like you're playing the campaign, Titus needs some other group of Space Marines to do something so that he can advance his agenda. And so you go on an operation. So you get to log into essentially like a dungeon instance as a different Space Marine, and you get to pick a class in this case, and also you get to customize that character as much as you want. And so then you then go do this side mission, like planting charges on some features so you can be a distraction. So Titus can do his thing.
Okay.
And in that situation, you play as a character that you are leveling up, that you are customizing, and it's a whole instanced event. So if you ever do die, you have to restart the whole thing over again, which is not normal for the campaign.
Good.
But it's a great mixture of I get to play as an Ultramarine, as Titus, and it's got the classic experience, but also I get to do this other thing where I'm like a Reaver Space Marine that's like a different like black power armor with like knives and capes and stuff. And like
you can be fucking Night Lords, dude.
What?
Yeah. I saw pictures.
You can be a Traitor Legion?
I don't know how that works. I saw pictures of people. They were fucking Night Lords. Dude.
They were fucking Night Lords?
Maybe. I don't know the story. But is this rated M for mature? We can get away with this.
That's awesome. I did not know that.
You can fuck bears in Baldur's Gate 3, dude.
Again, you did?
Yeah, dude.
What the
you can
fuck,
do, you can do that. What's a fucking Space Marine? There's nothing.
Dude, they probably got barbed ass. Oh no! Okay, we're going to weird places right now.
It's just like that fucking thing in Star Wars in the dune where
Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, it's just teeth in there.
Oh, this is so bad.
It's what the gene seed gives. Okay.
Oh my God, new chastity asshole. This is so bad. All right, it is a good game. And like, the other thing is that I don't think there are microtransactions in the game. You can just grind to earn everything.
That's good.
I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong, but I don't. There are some games that really shove it down your throat, and this one doesn't do that so much. But yeah, recommend for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is our.
I might cut that part. No.
This is our table. This is our tabletop. That's going to be the best part of the episode. This has been our table talk about Space Marine 2, Siskel and Ebert review. I've never played it. I give it a thumbs up. But right. I have watched people play it on Twitch. So it's basically like I played it.
Yeah, that counts.
So basically it's a great game. So I think I am going to pick it up on PC too. That's the other thing is like, we'll get it for PS5. I'm like, I ain't fucking using no controller, man.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the mouse and keyboard for a game like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I was leaving. I was going to go on my trip to Greece, and a video that I was making had a sponsor that asked me to have the video come out the day that I came back from Greece. And so I had to have it fully done before I left because I wasn't going to be able to finish it the day I came back from Greece. And so like the Saturday before the Sunday we flew out, I was working here to get it finished. And I came in early on a Saturday, like at 7 a.m., and I was working on my computer. And while I was working, this loud pop occurred.
Oh, that's never a good sign.
And all of my monitors went black. Everything went black. All the fans spun down. No sound out of my computer. And I'm like, okay, this is bad, right?
Power supply just die?
You nailed it. The power supply died, but so I unplugged the power supply. I turned the switch off. I turned it back on. I plugged it in a different outlet. So I just kind of tried some basic things first. Didn't turn back on, and then opened the computer up. I started looking at the capacitors on the motherboard because I've been in electronics labs in college before, and I've heard that sound before, and I knew it was a popping capacitor. And so I was looking for like swelling capacitors or exploding ones. I looked inside of the GPU. I even took apart the power supply to look for it, but I couldn't find it. But then I just swapped out in a new power supply, and then everything turned back on. Nothing was damaged. And then I finished the video before I had to leave. Like, that could have been so fucking bad.
Yeah.
I had to take the power supply out of my streaming computer, unfortunately. So at the moment, I can't stream while the RMA for that power supply is getting fulfilled. But at the very least, I had like an instant solution. I didn't have to go to Micro Center. They wouldn't have even been open at that time. And it was so nice that worked out. But it was very freaky, like right away when that happened.
First of all, thank God that it was something you could fix and get the video done.
Yeah.
Second of all, the way you started the story is not something I've ever experienced, and that is they wanted the XYZ done, so I did the video to come out this date. I don't do that. I give them my fucking calendar. These are my dates that are open for video releases. This is when the video goes out. Pick one. Because if you let them fucking say, well, now we're going to move to Kickstarter to next Tuesday, and now we're going to blah, like, fuck no. The video, I have my own shit.
I know.
Let me do my shit. And the thing is like, if I found that I felt really bad about that up front, because they were like, people would be like, oh, really be good at it. I'm like, I have a schedule. I am my own business. I have to keep myself on track because I need to make sure that I'm getting stuff out. This is what I can offer. And then usually it'd be like, we can build hype if it's 2 days before when you want it, or this will launch after your first wave of people coming in, and we'll get a secondary exposure and stuff. Usually, if you say it like that, people are fine. But anyway, I just thought of that when you said that. I'm like, oh, you were way too nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to use the small screen guy that you used, and so he's the one controlling the sponsorships right now, and maybe I'm just not like being clear enough. But the other problem is that you have a schedule for release. You have a day and even a time when your videos come out, and I don't do that.
You gotta do that, dude.
I know.
Just do. And the other nice thing too that will actually help you with that is I have a shared Excel doc, Google spreadsheet with Trigby.
Yeah.
And we that way he is empowered to know the dates, know the openings, know all this stuff, so he can make decisions. So he's not having to check with me all the time. So that's and then it holds me accountable to it, because I'm like, okay, I know there's one for this date, and we're on the same page. And then I feel sometimes it's more stress to make sure you get stuff out in time. But once you find that rhythm of understanding how much time I have, and then that dictates, how much extra funky B-roll shots I'm going to do, and how much effort I'm going to put into a cold open, and all these kinds of things. That can fluctuate because I know how many working days I have for it. But
yes, I this is not in the Preamble Ramble, but I am gonna start making weekly YouTube content again, and I've prepared for it by I have a very loose video ideas Google Doc that I've maintained my entire YouTube career and added things to. But there's a lot of fucking bullshit in there. There's a lot of bad ideas. And so
the further down you go down that doc, so the older the things are, the more you're like, man, I was dumb.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
That was never going to be a good video idea. So I remade that into a spreadsheet that has several rows. One is video title options, the description of the video, like the synopsis, like what happens in the video, whether it's long or short form content, like what stage it's in, concepting, like completion, or like it's in production, and then whether it's done, like a checkbox. And it's how complicated the video is to execute. Is it an easy video? Is it a moderate one? Or is it a challenging one? And so I mined that document for all the good ideas, and I'm trying to get to 100 ideas in that document, and I'm at like 45 right now of like actual videos that I think, like you mentioned earlier, like they have a shtick, that have like a purpose, that I feel like really good about. And it's really convenient to, at a glance, see all the easy ideas.
Yeah, it is.
So that I can just pick two. I think it's going to be 2 a month that are going to be easy. one, I paint a model and hand it off to Alex and he edits it. And then a fourth video is whatever moderate or complicated video I want to make.
Okay.
So that's the plan. Because you're right. I think a schedule is incredibly important, and I think consistency is incredibly important, which is something that I did very, very early on, and then stopped doing it, and then haven't done it in many years.
It can be a real grind.
Oh, absolutely.
And being able to release yourself from that for a bit is kind of feel like the weight off your shoulders, but
I think it has long-term negative implications.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we'll see though. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll find your rhythm of what form of regular schedule that doesn't drown you.
Yeah.
Just be aware of that and don't push that to the point where it's like I can't do this and it all blows up and the schedule all flies out the window entirely again in 6 months or something.
Yeah,
that's the only advice I guess I could offer. But
that's
great. You put it out in the universe now. Woo! So now you have to.
Absolutely, and I have every intention to.
That's exciting.
I have the videos planned out for this month and next month already, and
that's exciting, dude.
I'm ready to rock.
I'm so happy for you. I'm
Thank you.
excited.
Thank you.
Let me know if I can help in any way.
Okay. Can you make a video for me?
No. Other than that, your video can just be like, I'll make a video for me. I'll put it on my channel, and then I'll put it to you. I'll give it to you, and then you can post it. And it's just a redirect for my video. Does that count? Does that count? I think that counts.
Yeah, that may. I'll think about it.
Okay. I want to hear about Greece.
Okay. We're gonna do an abridged version of the story because just so this podcast episode isn't fucking 3 hours long. Okay. So, I think the first thing to understand about this is that I'm not like a vacationer. Maybe I don't know if you are. Like I don't like to. It's not that I don't like to. It's that I would never choose to go to a foreign country if left to my own devices. I would sit in my basement and rot for a vacation. I wouldn't go somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you feel a similar way?
Yeah.
Okay. So my wife is a vacationer. Which is good because if there's going to be someone who plans that experience, she's the one that's responsible for that. And she knows that, and she does a great job planning vacations. But she has to make it happen. And so she made it happen. She has family that lives in Greece, and so we're going to go stay with them in Greece. And so that's kind of the basis for the whole thing. I'm not a huge vacationer. I do it for my wife. Number two, I did not understand how challenging it was to get to where they were. So Greece has a mainland where Athens is, but also it has many small islands. Okay. We were going to the island of Ithaca. And so in order to get to Ithaca, we had to take a flight with a layover. So it was a flight to Frankfurt and then a flight to Athens and then a flight on a small airplane with like propellers to...
Were there like chickens in the back and shit?
No. It was just like a small airplane. And instead of the jets, they were the spinning blades.
Ooh, yeah.
But it was smaller. It was a smaller airplane. It went to an island called Kefalonia. And that island is right next to Ithaca so that we could then take a ferry from there to Ithaca.
I thought you were going to say you had to swim.
So basically, 3 airplanes and a boat. Did I do that right? Yeah, I think so.
That's too much.
So it's a lot of travel, right? It's a lot of travel. It took a while to get there. It took 21 hours to get to Kefalonia. We slept and then ferried to Ithaca. So it was like, a day and a third to get to our destination. And Ithaca is, imagine, like your friend's like up north cabin. Mm-hmm. It's like not as nice as a normal house, but it's like there's the novelty of being in the great outdoors, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this island is like that entire experience, but the Greek version, right?
Okay.
So it's like there you don't have the typical niceties that you're familiar with, but what you trade in that you gain in beautiful surroundings, beautiful beaches, and similar stuff.
I believe the term is rustic charm.
Yes, there's rustic Grecian charm.
Yeah.
And so that's what this island is. The entire island is a mountain. There are no flat areas, and so the roads are all very narrow. Like there are many hairpin turns. I'm driving, a tiny European stick shift car, which I'm comfortable with. I've driven stick shift.
On the other side of the road?
No. Thank God.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of very narrow areas where, so we were in this town at the top of the island called Exoi, which is Greek for out of the earth. And I'm like driving on these super narrow roads down the hill because we were leaving and we encounter a car. And it's like, what do we do? I have to reverse up the mountain to get to a like a little alcove so the car can pass me and then I can pass. That's just the reality of living on this island, you know?
Fuck that.
That's the thing you have to deal
I'll
with.
be done. I just fucking drop her in, park, and get out. Walk.
Just parachute down.
Dude, I have anxiety over travel in places I don't know,
Bro.
and this sounds like. And I'm scared of heights, so immediately,
Oh my God. Yeah, there's like no handrails in like half of the island. There's no lines in the middle of the road. Like you have to. It's like self-regulated. Like kinda. And there's like people driving motorcycles that go fucking crazy fast.
yikes.
But that wasn't a huge deal. We handled the driving just fine. Rented a car. It was all good. But that was a part of the experience. But like because it's a rural island, there are a lot of kind of interesting things they do. And so I think this is a thing in Europe mostly. But every business closes at noon and closes until like 4 or 5 p.m. because of taking a siesta. They did the same thing at Monte San Savino. The convention closes for an hour at lunch. You can't be in the hall. You have to get out.
How very European.
I know it's very European, but like on the island they close for like 4 hours. Every business is closed.
What
And
do
like
they do?
they go and they take a nap. They sleep.
Fuck?
They rest. Which like I'm not going to argue with. Like maybe that's a good thing, you know?
I don't think that's a good thing for your body.
I have no idea. But literally, you cannot go to the pharmacy. Like it is closed, and that will become relevant later. This story's crazy. Okay. So yeah, that was interesting. Another thing that's interesting about Greece is their sewage pipes they're more narrow. They're 2 inches in diameter compared to the U.S.'s 4-inch in diameters, and because of that. One thing you have to do when you're in Greece is you can't flush your toilet paper. You put it in a trash can.
Oh my God.
So every toilet that I went to the bathroom at has this tiny little trash can, a little step one that's right next to the trash can, and it is distinct and different than like the normal trash can in the bathroom.
A shit paper can.
Kinda, yeah. And so like that's different. That's weird. You know, that's not normal. Like in America, we just put it in the toilet and flush it down.
Those American pipes just shoot it to the moon.
Shoot it straight to the moon. So if you're not expecting that, it's a little bit different.
It's not a big
Anyways,
deal though.
yeah,
it's
just a little bit.
It's a shocker. It's a culture shocker.
Absolutely. So we went to Ithaca. We got there. We're at Amber's family's basically a tiny little villa that has 2 houses on it. Their house that they stay in, the house that we stayed in, and like a little honeymoon suite. And they're all kind of like cabin vibes, you know?
Okay.
So the only room in the house that we're in that has AC is the bedroom, and the door doesn't fully close because there's like furniture in the way. And the rest of the house is like very warm because it's very hot in Greece. And so that'll become relevant later as well. And like it's beautiful. Their view is insane. It is beautiful. We stayed outside so long, just chilling outside, reading books and stuff. But you know, it's kind of like it's really warm in the house and stuff like that. There's no internet. You know, there's internet in their house, but it doesn't reach our house. I'm not gonna go sit in their house to like watch YouTube videos.
Right.
My phone doesn't work in Greece, and so like I don't have a phone that has internet. I don't have a laptop that has the internet. You know, you kind of like missing out on a lot of the things you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then this happens. So before we left for Ithaca, we were sitting at the port, and there's a bunch of lovely little cafes there. And I had some food from the cafe. And then we got on the boat and we left. And then I started to feel sick on the drive from the port in Ithaca to the house where we were staying. And I didn't know what the problem was. I thought I just had to, you know, go take a poop. And I was
You just had shit paper poisonning.
Yeah.
You were too close to the toilet paper. Too
Yeah,
much.
yeah. And so I get to their place, and they're kind of like funny old people. They'll like ask you a question. They're like, "Hey, do you want to eat when we get home right away?" And we're kind of like, "Oh no, we're fine." And then we get home and we eat right away because they didn't hear the question. They had like a plan in their mind already, and the question was irrelevant. You know that kind of vibe.
They're just kind of letting you know, but trying to be polite about it.
Yeah, kind of. And so we get there, we eat immediately, and I'm kind of like, you know, I don't think I need to eat. I'm not hungry, but also I kind of feel ill right now.
Got a little gurgle guts going
Yeah.
on.
And so in the middle of the meal, I'm like,
Shit your pants.
I'm the worst. I'm trying to eat the food because I really want to be polite. It's the very first time I'm like, we're meeting them. Not the first time we're meeting them, but like I just got there. I want to start off with a nice, good impression, but I just can't eat it. Like I'm really feeling ill. And I had to like get up and leave. And I get up and leave. This story is going to get gross. Okay. So if you don't like gross stories, you should skip the next couple of minutes. All right. Okay. So I get up and leave and I go puke. Because I feel so bad. There's a moment when you know it's coming, you know?
Yep.
And it's not like you are starting to do it. It's like, okay, point of no return, I have to puke. Yep. And so I got up and left when I knew that was the case. Yep. And so I went and I sat on the toilet and I puked into the small.
You puked into the shit bucket.
Because it was right there.
Why'd you puke in the toilet?
Because I also had to shit my
no!
Because
it was the dual threat going on?
Because I had insane food poisoning, bro. Never in my life have I experienced this. I vomited 10 times.
Wow.
And every single time I was sitting on the toilet as well because I was also doing that.
Oh my God.
I got to a point where I'm
gonna die.
I was dry heaving, but nothing was coming out.
You got it all out.
And so I was drinking water so that when I did throw up again, because it kept coming, I had something to throw up.
Yeah.
Because it was so awful to be like gagging into a thing and have nothing come out. And like I was going to the bathroom and it was seriously clear water coming out of my...
Dude, this is great. That's very healthy. Your whole body cleansed.
It purged everything. And I think I maybe eaten something I shouldn't have eaten before and like, throw up one time.
Yeah.
This was different. And so the only food item that I ate that Amber didn't eat was this particular meat pie I had at a cafe. And so the assumption is that's what's caused it. But the first time, like I'm sitting in this bathroom, the windows are open because it's so fucking hot. I'm drenched head to toe. All my clothing is wet. And the windows are open, and my wife and her family are sitting out in the pavilion, right next to the bathroom, and they can fucking hear me.
Oh, no.
Just retching my stomach out so many times in a row. And, like, I have to, like, take the bag out each time it happens and bring it to the trash can, which is outside right next to them. And they're like, how's it going? And it's like, I am
dying,
having the worst day of my life. Like, I just wanted it to end more than anything, and it wouldn't end.
And you want to be home in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to be in a foreign place that you're not comfortable with.
Exactly. And so, like, obviously this isn't necessarily Greece's fault specifically, but that experience was awful. It was so bad.
Greek food will make you sick. You heard it here on Trapped Under Plastic.
So basically, and that had fallout effects for like the next 2 days. Like I felt ill, but I was able to eat some things. And like Amber's family was so nice to me. They made me chicken noodle soup and it was awesome. That was great. But I didn't feel great.
I'm sure you were completely like sapped of all energy for at least a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't do anything, which you feel terrible about not being able to do anything.
On vacation, right?
Vacation where you feel like this is when I should be.
Yeah. And it's not over yet, bro. It's not over.
No.
Okay, so then I got better, and then we went, there's a bunch of different beaches on Ithaca, and they're all fucking awesome. And we went to a different one on a later day, one we hadn't gone to yet. And for some reason I was swimming there and I was getting an insane stomach cramp. I don't know what was happening. So I just got out and I just was like chilling and reading, but it wasn't getting any better. And I was like, okay, we need to maybe go back to have access to a bathroom because like, again, small island, it's not like bathrooms everywhere and stuff like that.
Dude, the fucking ocean is a bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe not for what I'm producing. Oh. So I didn't know. So we went back and I went to the bathroom and it started to get better and I didn't feel well. And so I didn't eat. Amber went to go eat. And then she came back and I was just sitting on the couch reading. My head started to feel a little bit warm and she came back and she saw me and she's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. My ears are a little hot. My entire body was red. And then as time progressed, my whole body broke out into a rash. My skin was bumpy. It was red and inflamed, like all over my body. And we're like, what is happening? I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm itchy all over and I'm really warm. And we were like, we need to go to the pharmacy. And it's like, they're closed, bro. They're not open. The hospital isn't open. Like
The hospital isn't open?
I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But I guess we didn't feel the need to go to the hospital, which is fine. I didn't think I was dying. It wasn't like harder to breathe.
This is like the starting point when you're dying, though. Like this is when you die. Like this is where it starts.
I will.
You shit yourself.
I will include pictures. In the tasteful pictures in the podcast right now, so you can see like the level of like bumpiness and like redness all over my skin. But like Amber was so concerned, and I was like not too concerned.
Did you have a parasite? Did you have like worms and shit?
I don't know. But here's what I'll say. It went away. It went away after 4 hours. It went away. And then it was still kind of there. We went to the pharmacy. And what the pharmacist told us was, he was like, it's very possible that there was, because of the wind, pollen blown onto the surface of the water. Because that beach was surrounded by trees. And I have a pollen allergy. I always struggle with pollen during the spring season.
Dude, and this is foreign pollen.
Foreign pollen.
Dude, your body's not even used to this stuff.
Yeah, and it made sense because all of the areas where I have hair, my head, my armpits, and like other areas, that's where the reaction was worse. So like where the water's being held and stuff like that. And so yeah, that passed and that was fine. But
okay, anything you want to do on this vacation, you want to eat good food, fun food, you want to visit the beautiful locations, you want to go in the ocean, all of those things will make you sick. You can't do any of them.
I felt so bad because I don't want to be the center of attention on a vacation. This is Amber's show. This is her family. I'm just an accessory. You know, I'm just here to make her experience better. And all I'm doing is just being this difficult, sick person that is making it challenging. I don't want this. And not only do I not want to be puking 10 times in a row, I don't want to be the focus of anything. And so like, that was just, and that's it. There's more shit I could talk about, but those are the main highlights. And of course, it's going to ruin your experience.
10 out of 10 would go again.
Yeah. And so Amber was so sad. She's like, "You're never going to want to go to Greece again." And I was like, right now, not really. But
no.
Maybe in like 3 years.
Let's go somewhere, literally anywhere else.
So sadly, it wasn't a super great experience. It was beautiful. The beaches were amazing. We got to see some incredible views. There's definitely good, but there's also a lot of bad. So it's very hit or miss.
Yeah. It wasn't the problems that you had weren't due to the location. It was just a bummer that you were at that location when those things happened.
Yes.
Also random fucking meat pies, bro. I don't know what the fuck was in that thing.
I think it's just sitting around for too long, probably.
Yeah. That was when you start talking about these other symptoms, I was like, fuck, I could be a parasite if it was a meat pie and it was an undercooked rat that you ate. And so that was a possibility. So it's a good thing it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because then that would come out your butthole and you would look like spaghetti noodles. Dude, one time when I was a kid, my dog had worms. And I remember this distinctly. I came outside and my dad, with his fucking bare hands. This is my goddamn dad in a fucking nutshell. My dog had worms and my dad with his bare hand was pulling like 3 meter long lengths of spaghetti noodles covered in shit out of his butt to pull all the worms out. Dude, I was just.
You're never gonna forget that image,
dude. It is seared. It is seared into my fucking head. Just a fucking bare hand grabbing spaghetti noodles and they just was never ending. They just kept coming and he kept pulling. He kept pulling.
I wonder how that felt for the dog, dude.
I bet it felt fucking amazing.
You could feel it in your intestines. Literally.
You should have. I wish you could have weighed yourself before and after.
I thought about that too. Yeah, like I wonder if I lost like 10 pounds or something like that.
You probably lost at least 5.
Yeah,
at least 5.
Yeah,
feel good. Feel like you're in beach shape.
But yeah, dude, it's never felt more good to end a vacation and come home. And even for Amber too, she was like so wired the entire time.
Oh, I'm sure she was exhausted.
Yeah, she came home and slept immediately for like 36 hours.
Jesus.
But yeah, that was my vacation in Greece.
That is an amazing story.
And it like shapes you too, like when I go on vacation, I eat all kinds of shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like I eat street vendor food in Italy. I eat like random fish pies in Iceland. I've never had that experience. And now, dude, I don't want to relive that. I do not want to experience that again ever in my life. And so now I'm scared. And that sucks because I want to eat cool stuff and I can't if I'm like gonna fucking die. Anyways, done with that story.
Yikes. I had one time where I had it coming on both ends is in our bathroom. By the tub, my wife has this big pitcher that she uses when she takes bath in the big soaker tub. And I don't know what she uses it for, but it was the only receptacle. So I vomited into that, and it was just like I vomited a giant pitcher of Kool-Aid.
Oh, no.
And I didn't know what to do with it, so I had to like flush it down the toilet and then continue the process. And it was just like, this is one of those, you know, you ever get like, you're like super sick, but you like wake up in the middle of the night and you're just drenched with sweat. Yeah. And then like it's like 2 a.m. and you do that, whatever.
Yeah.
And I went through the whole process, wake up the next day, forgot to tell my wife that I barfed into her bath.
Oh, no, bro.
She goes to take a bath that night and I go, no, don't use my barf bucket. And ever since, that's the only use of that thing.
It's never been used for anything else?
It's never been used for anything else. And it's in there. And it's the only time I've had to do that. But I'm like, that thing has got to be nearby. Because in that situation, you have to have something.
Yes. Yes.
And unless you have like sniper-like precision of spreading your legs and barfing between your legs. Which, if anyone ever does that, please fucking take a selfie. Because I want to see, and I mean, I want to see your junk, but I do want to see.
I don't know how you would see.
Dude, if you catch it mid-barf stream, it'll cover up.
This is gone.
That would be the most epic picture of all time.
You ever seen like that comic book or that comic strip where it's like people are like peeing, shitting and vomiting and they're like spiraling into like the stratosphere and there's like a million people doing it.
Yeah,
it's like covering the world in like a rain of like putrefaction. Have you seen that like stick figure comic ever?
Yes.
That's what that reminds me of.
Yes, that is it. Well, I'm glad that we went on this journey together.
I feel like, yeah, you know, sometimes you just have a colonoscopy story and you got to tell it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You don't need one now. I mean, everything is clean.
We're cleaned out.
Yeah, wow. Let's move on to what we painted.
All right, yeah, let's do it.
I painted 2 different Space Marines. We'll start with the little one. This is Lamarty's, and there's a pretty massive distinction in the painting, like a style, I guess, and they're totally different, but they're both Space Marines. And this was just and that was a quick turnaround video, but it was just kind of trying to do black armor with kind of the dark grays and
kind of colder highlights and stuff.
Yeah, and that was all painted with the new P3 range.
All right, give me your honest opinions. 30 seconds, go.
If I was a brand new painter and I had to start with one paint range, I would pick P3.
Why?
Because it is not a bloated range with 100. It's 100 colors, and that includes metallics and washes. It is not bloated. There's unique colors while still hitting everything you want. And all the paints act uniformly in high pigmentation, creamy and smooth, and they blend down to glaze. They can do everything you want.
Has many ranges.
I don't think you must buy this. Okay. I don't think if you own Army Painter Fanatics, they're great. You don't need this. If you own a full Pro Grill set, they're great. They're awesome. You don't need this. If you own full AK 3rd Gen, they're great. You don't need this.
Okay.
That said, I own all of those, and I backed this Kickstarter. So
You backed the Kickstarter? They didn't send you stuff?
They sent me. I have all the like in unlabeled pots, and they're wonderful. But I want to support them because I believe in this range, and also they can come in dropper bottles. I prefer the pots, honestly.
Why?
Because they're OG pots that will never fucking go bad.
Yeah, but
and if I need just one little brush tip of a color, I don't have to put it on the thing. I don't have to put it on the wet palette. Also, when I'm doing like a thick wet blending base coats and just establishing colors, I don't even fucking put them on the wet palette.
Okay, so
I'll fucking open the lid and just grab the brush in there.
They're that kind of dilution. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, I really enjoy the paint. It's creamy. It's gorgeous. It is. They did the thing that I was really hoping they were going to do, and I was really scared they weren't. And that was hold true to the paint acting like the original P3 did. Just make it more consistent in pigmentation across the whole range. Because the original P3 range, about a third of the colors were phenomenal, a third of the colors were decent and usable, and a third of the colors were bad. And this, they're like I tested 66, 67 colors, and everything acted like the best colors. And so I was like blown away. So,
Okay.
So yeah, I loved it. And it was a pretty. He was fun to paint too. Something feels cool about like you just get that edge highlighting done in that black armor, and I felt like I'm 80% there.
Yeah, no kidding.
And their metallics are completely redone. Their metallics are wonderful. So they're like the Vallejo metal color in terms of really, really fine grind and really, really smooth, but they've got more body. They're not watery,
Okay.
but they're not goopy thick like some metallics.
That sounds like the best of all worlds, honestly.
Yeah, it really is like
Interesting.
really, really cool. So it is some aluminum mica combo is as much as I could weasel out of them.
Okay.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Okay. Cool. How long did it take you to paint this model?
1 day. So probably about between 8 and 10 hours.
Okay. All right. It looks nice. I love Blood Angels, the scheme. I like black, red, and white, It's because from my fucking channel. So I think those always look so nice.
Yeah, I like he's got just enough other interesting details on him that he's not boring. Like I love that bone helmet. I really wanted that to shine. And so I'm like, I'm going to do bright, like arcane blue eyes. And
I think it works.
so, what did you paint, sir?
I painted this Malifaux model. This is the third Malifaux model that I painted in my entire career. It's from this box called the Brine and Bones for the Forgotten Faction. And the model that I painted was Mary Bonnet. But it's like the pirate version of Mary Bonnet called Mary Blacktongue Bonnet.
She doesn't seem so tiny as I seem to remember Malifaux models being.
Yeah, definitely. There is still a little bit of that, but it's definitely not as bad.
This is a really nice model.
It is a really nice model. I really wanted to paint a kind of like a zombie, undead, spectral pirate person because it was thematically appropriate for the video that I'm making. And also, the video is not about the paint job. It's about something unrelated to painting mostly. And whenever I do that, I love to paint a model that I feel like I don't know how to paint, right? So I suck at OSL. You may not think I suck, but it's one of the things that I'm not very good at and I'm not very practiced at. And so I like to take this opportunity when the video isn't about the painting to really push myself and practice a little bit with an all over OSL paint job. It's all paintbrush, no airbrush at all. Just to see like how it works, see what the problems are, see what, issues I run into. And that's what that model is. I did a green OSL on a pirate. I guess whenever I'm tackling a new thing to me or a thing that I don't know how to do, I try to make it as easy as possible for me. So like, I'm not going to try to do OSL on a bust with like an airbrush as my main painting tool. It's going to be on a 32mm model. I'm going to use a paintbrush. And that's my comfort space. I'm trying to limit the amount of things that are uncomfortable. I don't know what the steps are, but I'm going to keep fidgeting until it looks like it should look at the end. And then if I do that a couple times in a row, then some like concrete steps and like advice starts to emerge, right? Yeah. And so this is kind of like the futz for 5 hours until it looks decent kind of thing, and until you have like concrete lessons learned, and then try it again, and then keep iterating and iterating. That's what that model is for me. It's not amazing, but it's okay. And I want to talk about some of the things that I learned and things that I tried in the after party.
What's the after party, Scott?
The after party is about 20 to 30 minutes extra content that our patrons get. So if you want an even longer episode with more juicy details, check out the after party. That is one of 3 extra segments that our patrons get. So check it out. Link down in the description below.
Yeah. And big thank you to patrons. Honestly, you are what keep this ramshackle fucking monster of a Volkswagen Beetle in still going down the single lane highway down the mountain of Greece.
It's like It's like 80% of our podcast revenue.
Yeah.
So it's significant. Maybe 80, 70%. It's a significant amount.
We couldn't do this without you all, so thank you so much.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on that, though?
There is one part about this that I just is like shockingly satisfying to look at, and I really, really like.
Yeah, I think I know what you're gonna say.
It's her fucking cloak.
The back,
where that green is just like, it's very apparent that's really pleasant, almost aqua color is coming from that green light source from her flame in her hand, but it's not like, look at me, I know how to paint OSL. I'm gonna make it like over exaggerated.
Yeah,
right? And that is difficult to do, understanding how light works in terms of the amount of distance.
Yes.
And so it's not overdone. And because you already have this really satisfying, like a purple shadow into a deep saturated blue, and then that is your main light source on the back of the model, because you're not hitting it with a lot of overhead light to use as your highlight like you do over the course at the front of the model, that it just works so well. And
it's got a lot of kind of gobbledygook on the chest, which like kind of made the OSL a little bit more challenging, because that's where like the light is. It's like front left of her, right?
Right.
So that was not ideal. Honestly, if I were like going super easy mode, I'd have painted a GW model, right?
Sure.
Like, do you know the high elf model, the Lore Master?
Yep.
Like that
I can
is
picture
that's a great OSL object. All of the shapes and volumes are very cleanly defined, very straightforward.
And it's not over detailed.
It's not over detailed. This was just right for the video, but if I were really trying to learn OSL, I'd dial it back even one more step into comfort and paint a GW figure, I think.
But it's very apparent that it's a glowing object. It's a nice accent color, and it's not overdone. Like, I can tell that that green light is hitting other surfaces, but because you have a soft light over the whole model, you can't have that be so stark, because when a light is that powerful, it creates very harsh shadows.
Yeah.
And that will fuck with the rest of your paint job.
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that. I kind of was just like, I'm gonna see where the chips fall, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. It just like OSL, it just muddies the waters so fucking much.
Yeah. And you have to kind of approach it, and it kind of transitions into the big Lieutenant Titus that I painted. You have to go in there understanding how impactful strong lights will be on the entire paint job, and kind of set yourself up for that from the get-go.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to cost yourself a lot of time, or it's not going to quite turn out where it feels right. But when you can kind of harness it a little bit and keep it a little bit more controlled, like you did with her, you make the impact that it does create that interesting light source without it kind of tumbling down a domino effect.
Yeah.
You know?
Personally, I don't like when an OSL takes over a paint job. Like, I like it when you can still see the other colors. Like, I think one of my pet peeves, and not because it's bad, is I never like a campfire moonlit scene where like all of the colors of the model are reduced to oranges and yellows and blues and blacks.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks good. I think it's like an interesting thing to experiment with.
Yes.
From like a learning perspective, but it never looks good to me. And so I've always tried to avoid that if I can. But again, I was just shooting my shot, see what happened.
Yeah. I think it's... the thing is, when I look at that, the more I looked at the model, the more I wish they would have actually come out with vampirates. Because, like, think about that. If Soul Blight was a more vampire themed and that's kind of that style, I'm like, that would be a fucking badass army.
Bro, it would. It freaking would. I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Fucking peg legs everywhere.
Dude, absolutely. Give me the Pirates of the Caribbean, bro. All right, let's talk about Big Boy Tussie.
Yeah, so I painted this Barbie doll-sized Space Marine, the biggest thing I've ever painted. And it's not like painting a miniature, is what I learned.
Surprise!
Surprise, it's huge. And what I said in the video was, a responsible person would have done their research and learned what kinds of techniques and what kinds of products really work for like Gundam users or for like high-end statue painters to work well at this scale. But I'm not a responsible person. And I was like, I just want to approach it like it's a big version of a model, and then I'll learn through that process, and that will help things kind of soak in for me as I do it. But this is the exploration. This is the typical John exploration of color explosion. And I wanted there to be a fairly strong front warm light that I could really reinforce the fact that he is an ultramarine and that is Titus. But I didn't want to just paint a square mile of blue across armor, a base coat of blue and whatever. And so the whole thing's painted with 5 colors. Other than like the only black that's used is on like the ribbing between the things. That's just a quick contrast paint coat. Yeah. It's that his left shoulder joint is not a perfect magnetized fit.
I'm gonna put this down now. I am fucking terrified.
Yeah, I mean that's the only one that's a little bit sketchy. But like there is a load-bearing claw of that Tyranid that goes into the base there that kind of reinforces it. But the whole thing's still magnetized. Nothing is glued together. You can fucking pop off his head, and you can do all that. It's pretty fucking rad here. In fact, just
you tear it apart.
like look at how fun is that?
That's so fun.
It was. There's some things in the after party I'm going to talk about in terms of what I learned through this really weird experience. But I will say it is very awkward to paint something this size because you can't get close with a brush and like you have your tendrils around the model, you have your wrist locked, all those things that we rely on in miniature painting, you can't do in this. However, it's all magnetized, so John, you could just paint each thing individually like a regular mini, but that doesn't work when you're trying to create an atmosphere with color and light. Like I needed it all together, and it was like my biggest round brush I had, and I was just brush strokes and placing color and lines and texture, and it is so satisfying. I have 0% confidence what it was going to turn out like when I was done, but it was a sandwich cookie of place a ton of lights with an airbrush first, then go in with big brush work, and then all the tints at the end with an airbrush again to reinforce the colors and the lights.
Soften some blends.
And soften blends.
Yeah.
And that was it. It's 3 steps to do the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So this was kind of like I don't know how statue painting works. I'm just gonna take a stab at it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was some pretty big takeaways, some things that like almost reinforce things that I think I've kind of organically grown towards as my miniature painting style is kind of evolved over time.
Okay.
That reinforced that. And it kind of makes me want to double down on it in my regular miniature painting going forward. And I will talk about that in the after party.
Okay, awesome. That's amazing.
Spoilers.
You went to a different medium. You learned things from that medium that you can then incorporate into the hobby of miniature painting proper. That's cool.
And it was all single pigment paints that were used. So then when I mixed stuff, I wasn't desaturating or pulling away color. I think that was a pretty massive. Didn't really know that was going to be as impactful as it was, but I kind of wanted to give myself a little bit of that flexibility that way.
Okay.
And that really helped me. It really did help. That was like when I know his armor is blue, and as I move around, we get to that side where there's a magenta underlight, and in the back where there is almost like more shadowy and more purples are brought in and stuff, I can still be using the ultramarine blue mixing in. So there's a bit of that true color of that surface is always present, even as the light and the color mixes change, that I don't need to be an expert in color mixing or color theory to just feel like I'm keeping myself restrained enough that I can't fuck it up too much.
Wow, okay. It's so interesting. It's like the strategy of how you approach a new technique, right? It's like, it's not even getting into how to paint a statue. It's like, when I want to learn something, this is how I go about it. I find that really interesting, like the specifics of it. Cool. I think it looks awesome. I think it's like one of a kind. There's like, how many of these in the world you say there are?
I think 6. That's what they say.
Fuck, like, I'm standing next to mini painting history right now, in a way.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was a very scary thing because of the size of it, and I had no idea how it was going to turn out. I'm like, this could look like a fucking kindergartner had painted it by the time I'm done. I really did not know. And I'm like, I'm making a video. I'm recording all of this stuff.
Do you still feel that way?
I felt that way for the first time in quite a while on this project because I really have no like reference.
Yeah.
And before I'd even started painting it, Sergio had released pictures of his because he's got one, and so you can see it on Instagram and stuff. And his version, it's very true to blue Space Marine, cream and purple Tyranid and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of glad that I see his because that's not how I envisioned how I wanted mine to look, and I wanted it to be different. But then I'm like, oh, there's a great version already out there painted.
Yeah.
I'm scared because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
That mine's just going to look like garbage. But at the end of the day, and I painted it in 3 days. So it was 20 hours.
That's why I painted this thing.
Yeah, but it's so much big work, right? It's so much. It's very Bob Ross of just like, we're just going to, I always told myself, it's like color and light and color and light, and always think big, never think small, and just make impact there. And hope that will carry me and I don't fuck up the color and light, because if those pillars crumble, this whole thing's gonna look like shit.
Right, because like if the foundation of your plan is faulty to begin with,
yes,
it's like, how do you solve the problem at that point?
And then I take what was the 20 hours on this, and then I have to spend another 20 in the micro to try to fix.
Yeah,
and that never works well. So.
Employing strategies, work on hobby painting, but aren't maybe suited for large statues because they're like less of a risk. Yeah, that's very interesting. All right. That's what we painted. Let us know what you painted, either in the Facebook group, the TUP Facebook group, which is linked down in our show notes, or in the comment sections of the video version on YouTube. We have a video version and audio versions available anywhere you can download podcasts. Let's get into the main topic of the episode, which is a bit of I don't know if you want to call it a review, but we've been in this hobby for a long time, maybe over a decade, 20 years even in some cases. And we've seen a lot of hobby tech improve or stagnate over that period of time. And so we're going to take a look at some of the larger categories of hobby tools to see what has improved and what hasn't. But this topic comes from a viewer.
Yes.
And so we're gonna read their question right now.
Okay, this comes from Lawhammer.
Hey.
So thank you, Lawhammer, for not only being a patron but submitting questions. So if you are a patron, you can have a great topic that we discuss for a whole episode. Lawhammer's question is, what are the most important changes / innovations / new technology in the hobby over the last few years, and how have they changed the hobby? And has it been for better or for worse?
Lawhammer took our LVO Duchess painting class.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
And he gave us some sound law advice.
He did. Did he?
I don't know. I don't think legally he can.
All right, you have some lovely categories.
He's now serving 3 to 6 years in prison.
In mini painting prison.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I just kind of jotted down some things that I think are kind of bullet points of things that came to my head, I think are worth our discussing. And we're going to go through on each of these things, and we're going to rate them on a tendie scale. It's been a while since we had a tendie scale. Tendie scale's back. 1 to 5 tendies, baby.
The tendie scale.
Right.
All right.
And so 5 tendies means it's been a great positive improvement for the hobby because of the innovation. 1 tendie means it's not helped at all.
It's gotten worse.
Yeah, maybe even worse. Maybe. Or it's a complete waste of money, which is kind of worse in its own way. And so we're gonna shoot from the hip on this, but we have experience, a vast number of experience in all this stuff.
Yeah, which is how we legitimize all of the information we share
Right,
on the podcast. It's all shooting from the hip.
We all shoot from the hip, but we also are painting and using these products every single day, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's it. So the very first one, we're going to start with the heavy hitter and kind of tease this a little bit in your question about the P3 paint. And the first one is innovation changes new technology in paints themselves.
What is the time period we are looking at?
I'm saying like roughly 5 years.
5 years? Okay.
But you can kind of, I think we can go flexible with that if we want to state a time.
Yeah.
Of that. So right off the bat with paint, I think that there was a point where the quality improved. There was a noticeable step up. And for the last probably three to 5 years, it's basically been roughly at that plateau where the new paints are coming out are great. They're not all the same. They have different properties. but they're of this higher tier compared to last generation Army Painter or Games Workshop. I mean, this generation Workshop for some of their paints and last generation for sure. I'm trying to think of what other ones would be the lower tier even. I would put Scale 75 on kind of this middle point of like, it was the first one to
being nice
jump
to
up, but I think it's still ass.
Okay, so I have
It's like Reaper. I mean, Reaper is what it is, but it's kind of prior to that tier.
I have a story related to this.
Okay.
About 2 years ago.
Is it about you shitting?
No. Fortunately, no more shitting stories. No more clear. Okay. Anyways. All right. So 2 years ago, I think, at Adepticon bought some Foundry paints.
Yeah.
And Foundry paints are an old GW recipe. I think it's the Hexpot paint. So that's the paint that I grew up with, that I painted the majority of my old GW models with. And I remember some of them being really great. I remember Rotting Flesh being great, an off-white green, wonderful color. I remember Chainmail, Mithril, and Bolt Gun, all those metallics being amazing. I remember loving the inks. Those are all great. I still use the inks to this day when I don't have like a right color in like a Liquitex. And I bought those Foundry paints just to be like, okay, let's try it out. And they are dog shit. They are so bad, which is why I immediately asked about what's the date range we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Because if we're thinking about that, paint has improved a lot.
Yes.
Over that time period.
There's a rose tinted glasses too, and I see it all the time on like Facebook comments, YouTube comments and stuff of people like putting their fucking flag in the sand of like, oh, back when we were first starting, the paint worked just great. Goblin green was great and blah, blah. I'm like, that's because you haven't used it in 20 years, my friend, and you haven't compared it to what you're using now. In your memory, it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, the coverage on that shit is god awful.
That's the thing. I don't want to. The sad part is that Foundry is like an active company. I don't want to like shit all over it. But the problem with the paint is that it's decently viscous paint, and it doesn't have opacity.
Yeah.
So if I want to use it, I have to thin it, and then it has even less opacity. And it's like, bro, like modern paint really has discovered this middle ground of the right thickness medium, the right ratio to pigment to get the right opacity, such that if you do want to thin it down, you're not totally in the dumpster with opacity, but also right out of the pot, it's kind of usable, right? Like you don't, in some cases, you don't need to thin the paint at all for a lot of these major brands, depending on what you're doing with it. And that's like really amazing as well. Yeah. So we really dialed that in, I think.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I have on our list, which I'm not going to tell you what the topic is now, but all of these kind of tie into that. But the thing is here is there is now directed research and market for a very specific paint formula or some variation of a paint formula for this medium, where the further back you go, the more it's adapting what kind of paint existing paint manufacturers make for our uses, right? Instead of we are creating this thing specifically for this use from the ground up. And that's been the biggest change, I think. It is not like, okay, we're going to take a craft paint, which is roughly the consistency, roughly the different color ranges that we want, roughly the pigment density or whatever, and then just making slight tweaks to that. And that we're kind of beyond that. Mm-hmm. And so, in your eyes, Scott, number of tendies, 1 to 5, for that paint improvement, how impactful is that?
If we're talking about from our childhood, I want to call it a 4 or a 5. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about in the last 5 years, 3, 2, maybe.
Yeah,
like not much. There are so many paint ranges that are so freaking usable right now, and I don't know if they're really improving that much with each one, but it depends on the scale.
I hate to say that we've hit the plateau. I hate to say we've hit the ceiling, but I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I do not see a paint innovation that could happen that would make it another noticeable step up from the quality of the paints they are today.
That's an interesting question, though. If something could improve, what would improve? You know?
I think the only thing that you could look to that you could make that kind of a claim to would have been the advent of contrast paints, because it was a different thing that for what their goal was, which was to make it faster and better looking quicker, which is not about it being a better product. It's just about it a different thing. But that was out of left field became this new interesting thing. But I don't know what that would even look like.
That's the thing, is that innovation is just, it happens when it happens, and you don't know what it looks like until it happens. And it's like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense, which is kind of the beauty of it.
So for me, I'm looking at this most recent tier of paints compared to the last ones. And when I look to the last tier, I put the OG Vallejo on the last tier. And when I look at OG Vallejo compared to what we have today, where all sorts of amazing brands, that's not that big of a step up.
No, I think that's probably a 3.
Vallejo model color is like...
And that existed when those hex pots existed.
Exactly. That's been around. And that is...
3 from me.
Yeah. I'm going to go 3 tendies as well. I think it's noticeable in variety and different number of options. But different number of options is it's almost a different question. But I agree. 3 tendies. Next.
3 tendies!
Put it on the board. All right. Better. I'm going to skip that one because that one actually goes down to our second to last one. Let's go wet palettes, baby.
Let's go wet palettes, baby.
All right, baby. So, how long has the Masterson wet palette been around, my friend?
A long time.
As long as the Earth has been round.
Probably.
Yeah.
The Incans were using the Masterson wet palette when they're doing their cave drawings. Yeah, that's probably totally historically false, but anyways.
Yeah. I think, I do believe that the Sioux Indians were using, when they were painting on their war paint, going into battle, that they were using a Masterson wet
hydration, bro.
and a fucking Winsor & Newton size 7.
Oh my god, dude! They love that sable hair,
dude. Yeah, they do. There are minks and weasels that they used for pelts. Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
This is a harsh reality. They ain't fucking changed much, man.
Changed much, man. The packaging has changed. And I don't mean the literal packaging. I mean the stuff around the important tech, which is the paper and the sponge, the box, the trimmings, all of that stuff has changed, but not for much good, It's like, oh, we put a piece of copper tape in the box now so it helps with bacteria. And it's like, all right.
That is something. It's not
something, it's something, but it's not changing the way I paint. It's not really aiding me in like a significant way. It's like the wet palette is good enough as a tool, but no new wet palette has really innovated in a significant way that's made it something other than what the Masterson already brings.
The paper is the paper. Okay.
Yep.
That tech really hasn't changed at all. The Redgrass tried to change the tech, and it's worse.
If anything, it's the same.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would say it's reusable? Go fuck yourself. You don't fucking reuse a paper. That's like fucking, all right, I got it. You know what that is? You know what reusable paper is for your wet palette? That is you taking your hand into that little fucking garbage can next to the shitter and reusing the shit paper that somebody else used.
Okay.
That is what that is. It is, it sounds like marketing magic. It is not worth it.
Baking paper can kind of be reused, but there's a point when like the fabricy nature of the paper gets so waterlogged that when you start to mix paint, oftentimes with the back of the brush, you'll tear a hole right in the paper and it goes straight into your sponge.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they all have a shelf life. But yeah, reusable paper.
There is a little bit of, I think there's definitely an increase in technology and value in the sponge compared to the one that goes in Masterson. Not that Masterson one is bad, but
Tell me how it's better.
The newest Game MV1 has got 2 tiers. It's got one side that is more porous with bigger holes, and the other one is a denser, less water can move through it less freely.
Okay.
So what you do is you flip it, so the more porous side's on the bottom, and so more water can just freely move through there, and then more water is trapped on the top side. But the bottom side holds enough that it will keep the hydration going up, so you have a more consistent, less peeling. Is it worlds different? No. Is it better? I've noticed a sizable difference. Also, it's a thicker sponge, so you get more liquid that's in there. That's never a bad thing. Is that fucking the invention of the iPhone? No, but it's something. The different kinds of lids, the different kind of snappies, the different kind of airflow things, all those kinds of things. They're fine.
Yeah.
Do I
They're not harming it.
do I end up using them any different than I use the lid on the Masters? Nope. I always keep it slightly off center, so a little bit of water moist leaves, but not all of it.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Even when I have like a 4-inch, 3-inch gap on my wet palette lid, the paint in there still kind of overhydrates. Like I need a huge amount of airflow to have it like really remain nice.
Yeah.
And so like the vents that I see on certain wet palettes, they're like at best a dime-sized hole. And it's like, that ain't gonna do shit.
yeah.
At least where we live.
Yeah, your humidity levels may really affect this.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah.
Now, I will say this. This is the thing for when I said paint, I was like, I can't envision a tech that would make that next step up. I can envision that with wet palettes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I can envision a world where different kinds of science is used for the desired outcome of what we're doing.
Yes. The mini painting world is waiting for a hobby wet palette designed for miniature painting with miniature painting problems and solutions.
We need to go visit the hydrologists and talk to them.
Bro, your boy's on it already.
Okay. The hydrology department has been informed.
I've been emailing people, asking for sponge samples. I'm on it.
Bro, that you're already off. You're already off.
I'm off to the races.
The new tech, here's my prediction. The new tech won't involve sponges. Yeah. The new tech won't involve sponges.
What if it's...
And the new tech will involve you plugging in your wet palette.
Whoa, dude. Powered wet palette?
Dude, yeah.
There's a little mill in
I'm
there?
just saying, this is with no scientific knowledge or research being done, this is the thing that I think that it'll end up being.
USB-C.
Yeah,
Compatible.
bro. Yeah, exactly. Okay, how many tendies?
I want to give it a 1, but I don't think it's gotten worse, so I'll give it a 2.
I'll give it a 2 as well. I mean, I'm probably like a 2.5 tendies, honestly, because
This man's breaking out of the 10 tendy scale.
yeah, no, it's only 5 tendies, but sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm stuffed. I didn't need that full Miniac, 7-finger basket, bro. I guess. So I'd say 2.5 tendies. 2.5 tendies. It is noticeable. It is more than just staying at par. There is value. The other thing too is like the cost of a Masterson and the cost of like a Redgrass or a Game Envy or some of the other ones out there is pretty similar. You're not overpaying for something that I think is just slightly better.
Let's fact check that, because I don't know the answer to that question. All right, an exemplar wet palette.
I'll look up Masterson.
Okay, and there are multiple offerings from these companies.
Yep.
So we don't really know, but Game Envy makes the exemplar, which seems to be kind of like the cleanest one. The Premier wet palette costs $35.
$35. Okay.
All right, I'll look up the Masterson one on Amazon here.
$15.
Okay, so
I was wrong. It is over double.
Over twice, yeah. And then what's the Redgrass one cost?
I think it's going to be roughly the same as
Okay.
Game Envy. I think they're right about the same.
40. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's around the same price point. So yeah, the difference between 15 and 35 is not the difference between 100 and 250 though. Like,
correct. That math does check out.
it does. It's scaling. The scaling,
Bro, the XL wet palette is $60 from Redgrass Games, and the small one is $45. So it's $10 more than the exemplar.
Wow.
And then they have a really, really tiny one that is $30.
How much is the new Squidmar one?
Oh, did he do a Redgrass Games
105. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it is. It's got a box and it's got Squidmar pictures on the lid.
Okay. Yeah, that's an expensive wet palette. I'm sorry, definitely not worth it. Definitely not worth it.
Not worth it.
So much money.
Yeah, if you're pinching pennies, get the fucking Masterson one.
100%.
And actually, you can get it cheaper if you go to Michael's Craft Store. If they have a Michael's Craft Store where you're at, and you get. I'm not sponsored by Michael's, but you download the app. I got the fucking Michael's app, and you get 30% off or 15% off or 20% off any item or art item or whatever, and you get this thing closer to $10, bro.
You can pull Uncle Adam, grab a Chinese leftover lid, and put some paper towel on that bitch.
I'm sorry, no.
Get it for free.
No.
Hey, I'd do it at home.
If it's the caveat with that, it's got to be could be 100% flat.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of those are like they're wavy and shit. And like, good fucking luck.
Absolutely, dude. I paint on a plastic plate with paper towel as a sponge. I sit on a ball. I sit on a ball at home. I'm in the dark ages, bro.
Do you need me to give you a wet palette?
Dude, I'm in need, bro. I can't afford a wet palette. They're $45.
Oh no! All right. Yeah, when I factor in money, does that change my tendies? I don't think prices should be a factor.
No, I don't think it should be a factor.
We're talking strictly science here, gentlemen.
Science. They have improved, not significantly. 2 tendies, 2.5 for John.
All right. Next up, painting holders, painting handles.
Okay, so I have used a lot of these.
Yes.
Magnet ones that have a physical grip, ones that use poster tack, ones that use soda bottle caps, all of them.
Yep. What was the OG? So this is still a pretty new tech.
Yeah.
Right? This is the last 5-ish years, maybe a little bit longer.
I haven't seen a lot.
But not much. But what it used to be was like you'd have a little cork.
Yeah.
A piece of cork, and then you have a little paper clip in there.
A little medicine bottle.
Bottle with a double-sided tape. Mm-hmm. Double-sided tape tech. Dude, bro, that's pretty good.
Dude, you don't want that fucking 30-pound capacity, bro. That bottle ain't coming off there in a hurricane, bro.
No, it's fine.
And I can't get it off either. It's there forever. That becomes the plinth.
Oh man, yeah. This prescription bottle for my dog's
for my fucking Xanax.
Yeah, this is part of it. It tells the story of the model. All right, compared to the wide variety. So examples. I mean, I poo-pooed a little bit on Redgrass Games wet palette, but their painting handle is the fucking shit.
Yeah, dude.
I love it.
I dig it. It's the best ergonomic handle I've ever had. And I love that damped rotation.
Oh.
It has this lovely soft like rotating. So yeah, we do definitely shit on them for the palette, especially me. But I agree with you.
It feels like a high quality mouse, where it's like a good, like there's a good flow and there's just enough resistance and stuff. I really appreciate that. And then you can just take it off the cap, put a different cap on. Like all my Skaven models are already on the different caps, and I can just pop them on and off.
That's a great idea, actually, that I think modern holders have kind of figured out, where it's like you don't need to buy a new holder for every model you want, just the top part.
Yeah.
And you can pop it on and off. I think that is actually a great cost-saving thing that we've figured out in like the last, 5-7 years.
Yeah. Even like the Games Workshop one where it crimps around the base rim. I think that tech is solid.
Yeah, it's simple. It's simple.
It's simple, and then you can have your models, just like GW wants. You want them 100% based and built, so then you can go play with your gray army and then slowly paint them as you go. Like they know what they're doing, and that's smooth too. That's one thing that I appreciate about theirs. Theirs was probably the first to hit the market of the newish paint holders designed specifically for that purpose. That one is solid. I don't like the new shape of theirs. It's just like it's like a little flute, and it's like super skinny on top. I'm like, I need my fucking fingers around there to get a good man grip on this thing.
Yeah, you end up grabbing like the springy clamp on top and having like your palm like land where like that kind of bulb part is a little bit.
It's like an upside down wine glass. Who
the
fuck thought that was a good design?
I don't know.
Get the old one. Get the old one. Bring it back,
and
GW.
The old one, you can screw that top jaw thing on and off. I don't know if that's helpful, but it's kind of cool.
You can just kind of
brownie points for that.
See how the sausage is made.
Yeah. Oh, a screw. Wow.
Yeah, look at that. I can.
So there were some old handles before that one where they were like lathe turned wooden handles with like a cork core on the top, and they have that finger arch thing.
Yeah.
Do you like that finger arch thing?
Not even a little.
Hate it.
It's only going to get in the way. And there are certain angles, because even they had them where you could like swing that thing around. I can't put some of my models, a decent number of my models, on that thing because I got a fucking sword that's hanging out to the side, or wings, or a cape, or something, and that thing is going to swing over and fucking chip off my paint, or I'm fighting with this thing. I just want to focus on the model, not on this extraneous bullshit. If people like it and they give them more grip and more handle and whatever, more power to you. I'm glad that they exist. I just have never kind of been my jam, but
me either. And I've used them. I've used Exemplar has one as well. I think Exemplar is the one. No, what's the name of the brand that makes Exemplar wet palette?
Game Envy.
Game Envy makes one that uses the bottle caps, and I love that reusability. I think that's great. But the problem with the cap unlike the Red Grass Games one, is it only turns in one direction, and as it does, it loosens, right?
Whoops.
And so you can obviously turn the handle around in your hand.
And then, your model just flies off.
Yeah, but they have that finger arch thing, and that finger arch thing is actually, it grips the handle kind of hardcore. And so if you want to turn the model 180 and you want to turn that finger thing with you, it's just like an extra level of complexity that's, in my opinion, kind of unnecessary. I'm putting my fingers on that model, dude. I don't need no archy finger grip thing.
No. Okay, so if we look at the more recent tech, we can kind of start with the Games Workshop one as well as Red Grass Games, and there's a number of other ones on the market that are kind of similar. How many tendies compared to the Dark Ages?
Compared to a wooden dowel with double-sided tape on it?
Which I used for years.
That's a hard... 2 again? 2.5?
For me specifically, I don't want to go back from this Red Grass Games handle. Like, it's vastly... There's so much value for me because I would buy wooden dowels at the hardware store and I would cut them with my table saw. And I had probably like 50 of these dowels that are 3 inches long by 1.5 inches wide, and they take up the whole fucking bucket. If I wanted to paint more models, I never need that again. I have one handle, and then the caps that can go just in this one small container, and they have the blue tack on them. Tack something on there, and go. Also, I'll say it's not just blue tack that Red Grass. This is not sponsored. It's not just blue tack that Red Grass Games has in there. Like, the tack that they have is so nice.
What?
It holds so firm, but it doesn't leave behind the goopiness.
That's very important.
It's like that's a detail that they've actually upgraded from their first gen where it used to be orange and now it's like a darker gray. It's better. And so I see you, gray tack, and I appreciate you. And so to me, 3.5 tendies.
3.5? Whoa!
3.5 tendies. You heard it here first, folks.
The Cobalt Keep one is also kind of nifty as well.
That thing has got like it's got like a toothpick and it's got a can opener. And
no, not that big crazy one. That one's fucking batshit. But no, the one that like goes into the bottom of the base. That like kind of puzzle pieces in nicely.
Oh, yeah.
It's just simple. It's simple, and I like it. I like how simple it is, especially if you use their bases. I think it makes sense. And they're cheap. You can get a ton of them. So I like that for that reason.
Games Workshop one, too. It's just as simple as you have a table full of models. You're painting one by one. Whoop, pull one off, put one on. Pull one off, put one on the base. Like, it is.
I'm at a 3.
Okay, I brought you up.
I'm at a 3.
All right.
It is. I love. The only problem with the GW one, though, as fans of painting base frames as they are, you can't paint a motherfucking base frame with that thing.
I can't be more enraged by that completely oversight fact. I understand that they got to a certain point in the design and they couldn't figure out the reverse version where you create pressure or suction from the inside of the base frame.
Yeah,
that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And it's just an upside down fucking suction cup that goes on the inside of the thing.
Dude, yeah. Little plunger?
Yeah, and then there's a button on the side that like
jettisons it.
It releases the spun or the suction cup.
There you go.
And
you just
damn it! Someone else got my idea now.
Yeah. Someone else.
Just quick, make it and become a billionaire. And then buy Scott a fucking wet palette.
Hey, I like my plate and my ball, okay?
All right, let's go on to lighting.
All right.
Lighting, baby.
So again, I feel like the names that keep coming up here are Game Envy and Red Grass Games. We have that light from Red Grass, and we have the one that kind of like has like multiple limbs from Game Envy, which I can't remember its name at the moment.
Yes, it's some kind of light.
Yes. And then we have the classic one that all the European display model painters buy that used to be a CFL tube and now is an LED thing, but it's wide and it's white. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I would consider that older tech is nicer. I would consider older tech to be nicer versions of desk lamps.
Yes.
That you can include, either included with it or you can put in yourself a nice, clear, whatever version color rendering bulb that color looks right.
Wow. Color rendering index, CRI?
Yes, the CRI.
Okay,
That was what I was talking about. You want the high CRI. You want that 95 plus CRI rating on your bulb. It's going to cost you some money.
So, am I missing any other lights though? Like those are all kind of the significant players, I think.
Yeah, there are other ones, and you could call things like the maybe like a newer version of an OT light.
Or like BenQ makes like task lights. You ever seen that BenQ lamp? It's like bent, like it's like a curve, like a smiley face shape almost.
Yeah, I want to punch people that use those.
What's the deal with that?
It's fucking dumb.
Oh, dude, what are your thoughts? Give me
the light rainbow.
Yes, the arch. Did you ever use a arch or whatever?
No, it's the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard of.
It seems a little silly.
You know what? It would be better if it was like a light hood, where it was like not one arch but like 4 arches, and as you sat in your chair, you'd spin one, so it's like 10 degrees, one where it's 20 degrees, one where it's 30 degrees over your back. Because what you need is that universal halo, but you need it coming from behind you as well as on top. Because the rainbow doesn't help you because it's still only coming from one axis.
Right.
You need for the lights to come from like the direction of your eyeballs.
Honestly, that's what it is. You need your eyeballs to be light.
Yes.
If that how it worked, that would be perfect. Also, if my eyeballs could also be a camera, I'm signing up. You know, for our sci-fi overlords. You know, I will become a cyborg. Okay, if my eyeballs can be lights and cameras.
Robo Scott, you heard it here first.
So, okay, someone sent me a video on Instagram of a dental light, a new dental light. So this is fresh dental tech. Okay?
Oh, baby. Get us that dental tech.
It was a big saucer, and it had many individual light elements inside of it. And a person put their hand in front of the light, and below there was like the typical like
mouth of teeth.
No, like a thing where you would sit, like the chair, whatever, that leans back. Yeah. And there was no shadow under their hand, none at all. Because of however this light is orienting the individual elements, if there are mirrors in there, whatever it's doing, it casts no shadow on the below surface. And I was like, that in a hobby lamp, maybe it's too expensive, but if there were a cheap way to do it, that'd be interesting. I don't know if that'd be amazing, but it casts no shadow. Wow. So maybe that's an opportunity for some light tech to really innovate.
The problem with this one in general, I think, is that like, none of this is new tech. It is just remarketed for us.
Yeah.
All of this lighting stuff exists and has existed for much longer than this 5-year, even probably 10-year time span. It's just that, one, there's a price to it. And that's not changing. Like, these new lights are not cheap.
No, they're not. Yeah.
But they're cheaper. But you're actually losing quality because of that. I really like both the Game Envy and the Redgrass Games lights. I like them a lot. The problem is they fail to hold a candle to the $3,000 in lights that I have above my meeting station. So but for the average hobbyist.
Is the average hobbyist going to spend $260 on a Redgrass R9 desk lamp though? I like it too.
I do like it.
I was given it for free. I use it at home. I stare through that slit, you know?
It's great.
It's like the light comes from your face.
Yes, and it's movable so you can get the correct angle.
I can get it really low.
Really high CRI index. It creates a more universal light. It's really good.
It's just so expensive.
It's not that much different than other high-quality lights that you could get otherwise. So
I appreciate, though, how they have the specs. They tell you the fucking color temp in Kelvin. They tell you the lumen and the lux at a specific distance, which is how cinema lights work. Obviously, because light falls off with distance, It makes no sense to measure light intensity just in a vacuum. You need to say at what distance. They say 3700 lux at 45 centimeters. They give you not just the CRI, but also the extended R1 through R15, which is like a different type of way of measuring light accuracy. They did the fucking homework, right? Okay? And I appreciate the hell out of Redgrass Games for doing that. But it is $260.
They are coming out. I don't know if it's common knowledge yet or not, but whoops if I am spoiling this. I think it's known. They're coming out with another one that is more cost efficient or like more less cost prohibitive.
Sure.
And I think it just has the one light instead of the double beams. I think it's smaller, more flexible.
Single bar kind of thing?
Single bar. And I think it's easier in smaller hobby spaces to use and stuff. So I don't know what the price is. I don't know exactly. I saw some prototype pictures or whatever, but it just kind of looks like a smaller single bar version.
Okay.
I don't know. But so there'll be some options at least.
Okay. That's nice.
But honestly, I don't think that those lights, they're good. They're valuable. If you got the money to spend and you want a nice painting station at home, I would get one of those 2 lights. I would choose those because I did a video where I tested a whole bunch of different ones, including that Euro one, that long wide one, and some other higher end ones and mid-priced ones on Amazon and stuff for hobby lights, for craft lights, that kind of stuff. And this was before the Game MV1 came out, but I mean, the Redgrass Games one, it wasn't even close how much better it was than the rest of them. And in some cases, many cases, those other ones were over $100. So is it a big difference? Are you going to win a Golden Demon because you have that and you didn't before? No. Is it going to make you a better painter? No. Is it going to make your painting experience a higher quality experience? Are you going to be able to see your mistakes? Are you going to be able to improve a little better because of them? Yes, a little bit.
How did it compare to just a normal hobby light with a nice big bright bulb in it? How is it better than that? I didn't compare it directly, so I don't know.
There was a lot of value because, like you, I wanted it slightly leaned toward me and down. And for it to be able to do that and direct that while not being a harsh light, if I had to, like, 'cause we got 2 China balls right here with creating a big soft light. When I had that in my painting station where I had 2 big, I basically just had the IKEA lamps with China balls and $45 bulbs in each of those. So there you're talking, that was over $100 and some dollars that I spent on that setup. It's not any better than that. But I don't have 2 15-inch China balls on desks on lamps that make it awkward to.
That's something that can't be really understated is like these elements are very bright and they are like 3 inches from your fucking face. And
there was a 360 too. Like, it hurts your eyes to
look.
You
can get used to it, but it's like, do you want to get used to it? The thing that's nice about the Redgrass Games one is that it's literally in between, the way I use it, is in between you and the model, and the lights are facing the model. So you don't even like see the physical light bulb at all.
Yeah.
Which it from a comfort standpoint is really nice. As a means of comparison, the Game MV1 is $85 and you can buy 2 of them for $160. So you can save $10 if you buy 2 of them.
And they're nice because they have like 2 separate lights that you can put at angles, and they really do the thing you want to do, where it's like you have one just to the right of your head, one just to your left of your head, and they're angled down, so you get more like a 180 light coverage. And their light quality is really nice too. It's not as good as the Redgrass Games one, but it's really nice. That's a really solid product. So back to the tendie scale. Be honest.
2.5 for me.
2.5. Yeah, I was going between 2 and 2.5. I think it's more than a 2, but if those 2 products, because those 2 products weren't on the market, there would be nothing.
Yeah.
For me, it would be a 1. But those 2, and I'm sure there's some other ones that are actually like, there's probably a good recent light that does something kind of similar too, because they keep releasing new versions of that. But
it's a quality of life improvement for the most part. Like the technology isn't really changing much because it can't really. But yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the tricky thing is with the lighting, because technically the tech has not really changed in the last 5+ years.
Like, we got LEDs, and LEDs have innovated over time, but they've kind of, plateaued a little bit.
Yeah. It's just that they weren't marketed towards us. We had to go out and find these things that would be good uses based on what they were already going to do. Like, I found when I was doing light research for my area, there are high-end shop lights, like for a workshop,
like the big ballasts that you hang.
the big ballasts, and those bulbs, because they're like a meter long bulbs. The fancy high CRI ones are like $300-$400 a bulb. But those things, like, again, things like that, they exist. They have been around. Yes, they've also innovated in that kind of thing, but they're marketed to us in the mini painting community, so we don't know. We think that just because Redgrass came out with something, it's the first time this existed. No, not necessarily, but it's just kind of streamlined for our specific uses.
Yeah.
The light itself is not any better than other lights that have existed before it.
Do you remember a video I made a long time ago where I made a light for miniature painting where it was a shop light that I hung from my ceiling with chain, and it like had 4 CFL tubes in it?
That's an old video.
It's an old video, yeah. And when I was doing that video, I was looking up RE Sky Panel CFL tubes, the kind of tubes they put in a fixture for filming Hollywood films. Like the Sky Panel is like a classic fixture. It's been around forever. And you can buy the individual tubes. And they were like so expensive for one tube. So I just went with like some shitty like Home Depot ones, but it was so bad, man. They were like flickering and stuff. I got rid of that light so fast because it was just like it was not good.
Heaven forbid you ever want to do any kind of recording, whether on your phone or whatever.
Slow-mo, yeah. Fucking, it's gotta be a strobe party, dude.
Yeah, it's harsh.
Yeah.
Okay. Come back around, buy one of those 2 hobby lights. It's probably, honestly, it's for this use. You know, it's solid.
It's expensive though.
I mean,
I think if you bought
comparative to other decent lights, I don't really think it is.
If you bought like a 20-watt light bulb, 2 of them, and 2 architecture lamps, that's nowhere near $260. That's like
I disagree.
That's like $60.
Do you know how those just those standard the standard IKEA ones is the ones you're talking about that they don't have a bulb, but it's just those architecture lamps.
Yeah.
Those are like $15 to $20 a piece.
Are you sure? They used to be $9. They're called a tertial.
I thought they were 15 when I had to order some.
Well, it might be.
Could be wrong, or I could have gone.
They're $20.
Yeah.
On IKEA, sorry, they were $20. When I made my first video about lights, they were $7.99. They were $8 a pop. All right. $20 each. We're at 40. Let's just do a little math. I don't know the answer. I'm curious. I haven't done this in a long time. Light, 20-watt CFL. What does this cost? Honestly, the ones I have at home are like some 50-watt like LED light. Like they're so fucking bright. They're way too bright.
But you want diffusion too. We're talking about that. Then you get into diffusion, which these gamer lights have diffusion built in.
That's nice. Yeah.
You can't just throw a bulb in there.
You kind of can. You kind of
can, but you're kind of just like you're blowing up the outside world.
Put some baking paper. Free solution. Okay. An light.
Burn your house down.
An 25-watt CFL bulb is $17. So that's 34 plus 40, $74 for 2 fixtures that I think are very similar in quality.
And you got to have space for both of those lights and flanking either side of your desk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for that, how much was the Game Envy one? Like 85?
It was 85, yeah, because 2 of them was 160 and it was a little bit cheaper. Yeah,
I would get the Game Envy one over that.
Yeah, I guess you get to decide. I can't tell if this light package comes with multiple bulbs or it's just one of them. So it might even be cheaper, but yeah, there it is. There's a little bit of a cost benefit analysis. It definitely is a quality thing. Having those bright ass lights right next to your fucking face can get a little straining at times. Interesting.
2.5 tendies.
2.5, I think is good. Yeah.
All right. The next thing, I have 2 things here, but I kind of want to lump them together. I put them separate, and I don't know if you want them separate.
Okay.
I'll let you decide.
I think they're together.
Okay. Social media and online learning possibilities.
It's 5 tendies because we exist, obviously.
Right. Absolutely. This is a loaded.
All right. Moving on.
Right. So social media in that the reason I have them separate is because I would rank these different.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Because
we can discuss them together.
Yeah. But then we'll rank them separate. So when we say social media, largely talking about Instagram. The way that Instagram has blown up for miniature painting community to see other people's stuff, to see paint styles, to be influenced, be inspired by, to see what's possible, to see people along their journey, see people improve, to share your own stuff, to use that as motivation, to help you, kind of keep yourself accountable to painting and that kind of a thing. So there's social media.
Yeah, but it's not just Instagram though. Like TikTok is huge. Vince is huge with Twitter. Now X, I've never used this. I don't know what the value that brings, but like it's everywhere.
I mean,
YouTube is social media.
If you're, I lumped YouTube in the secondary one, which is online learning resources.
Okay.
I'm largely talking about YouTube there.
Okay,
I
yeah.
ain't talking about fucking Duncan Rowan's Painting Academy, okay?
That is one, though.
It
And all
is
the
one.
Patreons, all the pro painters that have Patreons.
I'm not calling, what's the Banshee one? Miniature Art World for Winners?
I can't remember the name of it, but it's like Banshee Art Studio. It's like the name of the shop where you can buy his models. I can't remember the name of it.
It's the paywall content places.
Yes.
But they're still online learning resources, largely video based, because that's the big one, technology upgrade, but two, the advent of the quantity and the quality of it over the last 5-ish years.
Mm-hmm.
Because even pre-COVID, YouTube miniature painting, you were there. You're a dinosaur. There was some, and it was good, but it was like the foundation.
It was the beginnings.
The beginnings, the dog.
It was the cave drawings.
The to become, you have a lot more variety. You have people that attach themselves to different kinds of channels, different ways of learning. People that paint at different levels that they focus on in their channels and that kind of stuff. Really hyper specific stuff like Vincey V, like how to paint a slightly graying middle-aged white lady's hair for 20 minutes.
How to paint orc eyebrows.
Orc eyebrows. I think that's next week. We don't want to spoil his next video.
Yes. Yes.
Purple armor.
Purple shiny armor.
Purple shiny non-metallic armor
with a slight distress.
Under a autumn sky. Just before sunset.
Worn by a 6-foot-tall person, because that changes it.
Yes.
Yeah, that content's definitely next week's content. Anyways, it's interesting because I feel like if we were to compare, it was like it didn't exist and now it exists. So for that reason alone, I feel like it should be 5 or 4 tendies.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so the way that I think that the best way to justify it is looking at the trajectory of quality of highest quality works. Not talking about the average, because I think it scales the same way.
Yeah, but everything improves the quality of works. The better tools, the better educational resources. So it's like hard to decouple that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not basing this off of any specific fact, but I feel that the major way that the water level has risen for both a new painter, for a somewhat experienced painter, and then to the highest level of painting, if you look at that on a graph from 1990 to 2015, there is a steady increase. And then look at the winner of like Golden Demon Gold winners, Slayer Sword winners, Monte Sansevino winners from 2024 to 2017, less than a decade. And it is night and day.
That's an interesting comparison. You're definitely right. It had an impact. It's just a question of how much of an impact did it make compared to all the other strides the hobby has made in technology over time. The videos and the educational resources probably had the biggest impact. Definitely can't deny that.
Yeah, because I just think the access to information.
Of course.
Because it used to be where like you could only go as good as the best person that you could in your area, and then you're just trying to copy the White Dwarf stuff and all that. And that's why White Dwarf used to be the pinnacle and stuff, because it was like 12 passionate full-time painters sitting in Nottingham that were painting all day, every day, and they grew because of their community was tight and small, and they were all great painters and grew together. Now it's a worldwide community that we have access to all of those learning tools virtually, through Instagram, through YouTube, through places like that, where it's like anyone's personal growth has the capability to be skyrocketed at a level that it naturally wouldn't have had without that access of information. You look at the advent of the internet and the sharing of information, that same graph works kind of across all markets. So to me, that's where I'm making this comparison. That I think this is the most impactful technology and improvement. There are other factors involved in this, but I think this one is like 80% plus.
I think that's an argument that you could definitely support, like for sure. It's interesting.
And it's not just like looking at someone's great paint job. It's like being able to see the brushstrokes in real time. It's being reinforced of like, oh, this is how they go about thinning their paint. It's just these micro things that are reinforcement, so you're not second guessing or some very basic thing that is making a massive domino effect of impact on your final quality, that you just like in a moment you can just realize a thing or just learn a small thing that like years could go by of you painting, of trying to do your best and trying to win a golden demon or whatever. And it was a very minor, minuscule thing that with the advent of online learning, it just like,
yeah. So let's do a little bit of a walk through time here on other miniature painting education. Because it's not just Dr. Faust and Uncle Adam and Sarastro and Pete the Wargamer on YouTube back in 2016. There was definitely more than just that. There was also tons of blogs. Like I made a video back in the dark ages where it was like my top 5 or top 10 favorite blogs. I had like a whole folder of RSS feeds that I followed, and I would get a little notification whenever they posted a new article. Obviously, Massive Voodoo is a huge one.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about that one. But there were a lot. There were so many.
Raphael Lapica, didn't he have one?
He worked.
Oh, he was with Massive Voodoo.
Yeah, he was part of the Massive Voodoo team. Yeah. So, yeah, he had cool articles on that site as well that I freaking loved reading. But obviously, there's an element of being able to see stuff in real time that teaches you things that the person painting doesn't even think to describe, right?
Right.
So there's an element of that when it comes to video. Before that, there were also books, like actual miniature painting specific books. The classic one being the one not Lighten. What's the one by the French guy?
Not the James Gurney.
No, not that one. Not that one. I can't remember it. There's a classic book by a classic French miniature painter that's been around forever and was a great source of education for a lot of people.
Jacques Torres. That's a famous French chef.
Oh, is it? Okay. And then even then, there were Miniature Mentor was a website that had video. I hesitate to call them courses. Video paint throughs of a professional painter sitting down to repaint a box star or a famous model they had done previously, again in front of a camera. So it's this really interesting perspective of someone who's already done the thing, redoing it and telling you what they learned the first time, maybe how they changing it based on their learned lessons. That was the kind of extent of education for miniature painting that I was aware of on the internet. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we're coming from, right? So yeah,
it's very tough to like.
I'm gonna give social media five tendies.
Yeah, so
it didn't exist.
Yeah, social media. In terms of like how the question that I have for social media, and I'm talking specifically of Instagram. There are other ones, but it's like because it's the visual. So this is a visual medium, and that is the visual home, and then the most of it is there. But there are other areas. Why? I question it because I don't know how much it actually helps.
That's the thing. Okay, sure. So is that what we're like? Obviously, there are elements of social media that harm the hobby.
It does, yes.
So, but is that a question we're asking right now? We're asking how much did it improve? How much did it increase?
Positively impact.
Positively impact.
So you could say that it positively impacted in like 4 tendies, but then it also negatively impacted 1 tendie's worth. So that bounces out to 3 tendies. So that's how I'm interpreting it.
That is fair. It has a negative impact, right? It does. The amount of the access to comparison you have at your fingertips, endless comparison, is insane.
It's rough, yeah.
And I'm working on a video right now, and one thing I wrote in the video that I want to share with you right now is that I think I probably have said this before, when I am looking at my Instagram feed, sometimes my brain makes this mental jump to see my entire feed as one individual.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, I feel the need to outperform that one individual in quality and quantity. And it's like whenever I see someone do a new experience, and it's like, oh, damn it. I wish I was the first person to think of doing that experience. Or, oh, I had that idea and I never executed on it. And I just like, oh man, I was too slow. I'm slow. I'm losing. I'm not fast enough. And it's like, dude, that's fucking insane. It's like hundreds of hobbyists that I'm trying to beat at. And that just happens I don't know, naturally.
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity that you can put on yourself. It's not like it's a toxic community. And,
Yeah. But it also is that too, bro.
I mean, it can be. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you saw this, but Whittle Goblin posted some comments that she got on her posts on Instagram, and they're fucking unhinged. Let me just for this.
Is it about her painting?
No, dude, not at all. All right, here are the comments she got on a picture of her holding the new Skaven Tide box. Go away, tourist, just go away. Because no one wanted more horrors in their hobby. Tourist brain rot. You clout seekers never cared about the game or its setting. That's why gatekeeping is important to keep you clowns out. Party hard in the kitchen. People like this woman is why gatekeeping is important. Dude, what the fuck? I thought that I got negative comments. Mostly it's about shitting on my videos and my painting. They never come from me personally. Sometimes they do, but it ain't this bad.
Let them come.
Let them come. So yes, there are fucking evil, like just vile people on the internet, and they get to say whatever the fuck they want because of social media.
Yeah, that is the flip side of the social media coin.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not healthy to be too personally invested in that.
Absolutely.
So that sucks. And I feel bad for her, and I feel bad for anyone that gets comments like that. That's shitty. You don't deserve that. People that are unhappy human beings that are miserable just feel better. Sometimes they just feel better by trying to make other people feel as bad as they feel. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
sorry your dad didn't love you, dude.
But yeah, so I mean, I want to give it 5, but there's a lot of negative that comes with it.
That's and some of it really heavy stuff like that. Some of it less heavy because we kind of put it on ourselves, like, oh man, look at all the things you were saying, but they're all still some level of negativity.
Yeah.
I think the inspiration, the community, like togetherness, that kind of a thing from social media is very positive. So I would put that up to a 4 tendies. I think it's 4. It's not a full 5 in terms of the greatness that it brings to the hobby, but somewhere between 4.5 tendies. But I'm going to knock it down a bit because it's not all sunshines and rainbows, baby. I'm going to say 3.5 tendies.
I'm going to give it 4.
Okay.
I'm going to give it 4.
3.5, 4 tendies, 4.
It went from not existing to existing, but there is this caveat. So,
But. Okay, and then online learning, specifically videos, specifically YouTube, specifically our 2 YouTube channels. 5 tendies.
10. 30.
6 out of 5 tendies. 6 out of 5 tendies?
7 out of 5.
7 out of 5 tendies. All right, we got there. Okay, so then we got just a couple things left. I'm going to lump together in the quality of the models / I wrote down Games Workshop's improved production. And I'm going to clarify by what I meant by Games Workshop's improved production.
Okay.
The production line, their ability to produce models. Because they're able to produce so many new sculpts, so many more models now than they did. Like, this is not that long ago, where the amount of new models that they had come out per year was like half of what it is now. And because they're doing that, not only do you have more options, more things to excite you, but you're also like, I'm seeing it's like the timeline is sped up for improvement on the sculpts themselves, because they're making more. And also kind of a side shoot to that is not just Games Workshop, but other technologies and the popularity and all that kind of stuff for other companies out of China or wherever, and the quality of miniatures that are being produced, the water level as a whole, right? So when we think about Zombicide models from Zombicide, the very first one, and then you look at the most recent CMON models. What's a good example of that?
Zombicide Dead or Alive.
Yeah, Zombicide Dead or Alive. It's a good example. CMON, the new Sword of Ice and Fire ones.
Oh yeah. The new factions they remade that came out of the original game. Yeah, the remade ones are really nice.
Yeah. So just the water level as a whole. How much has that improved? How many tendies would we give the quality of models and from a variety of different reasons why?
Yeah. Here's the thing. What makes a great model has never changed.
No.
It's never changed. And so sometimes you'll find hand-sculpted models cast in pewter that are legitimately great because they understood what made a great model.
Yes.
Number of details, pose, depth of detail, all these things. I think new technology makes it a little bit easier to execute on what already makes a great model.
Yes.
So the question is like, how much has the industry learned about what makes a great model and how are they actually implementing the tools to achieve that end? How good are they doing that? I think it's a 4.
Yeah. I think it's a strong impact.
Yeah.
And even when you look at an amazing paint job by a world-renowned artist, if the model isn't striking and moving, it like you have like the suspension of disbelief is like broken. If the quality isn't there, if it's not giving them a solid enough canvas to work with. That said, you know, we don't need to have the bar be excruciatingly high for a canvas to be good, but just kind of the average, right? The average water level is raised quite a bit.
I have an interesting question for you that has a distinction. How much is there a difference between how much 32 millimeter wargaming scale models have improved and between how much display models have improved in the last 10 years? Can you think about a model from like FER that maybe you saw or you bought compared to display models that exist now?
That's a really good point, and it's actually something you were talking about just a little bit ago. It reminded me of something that I didn't put on this list, but I think we can fold it in here right now. No, I don't think that that's a limiting factor. I think the artistry of the sculptor and the technology of being available to produce that at the scale of which they do has not changed. I think the only factor we need to bring in with that is 3D printing. Because 3D printing opens the doorway for people to get into producing models for display, for bust, for whatever, that weren't willing, didn't know, didn't have the capabilities or whatever to actually produce the thing.
Yeah.
And so we have more variety, and I think that the sculpting skills and the understanding of anatomy and all that kind of stuff, that has not changed. But I think we're opening the door with 3D printing, that the 3D printing has gotten to a certain quality that gives us more variety. But you're right. I don't think that's changed at all.
It's interesting. It's like Hollywood and YouTube, right? YouTube enables individuals to make content and release it at will. No review necessary.
Yep.
3D printing allows people to sculpt things, throw it on Patreon, no review. You don't need money to do molding and casting. You don't need money to make a Hollywood production, to make a YouTube video. And so it just opens the floodgates of creativity. And with that comes bad and good. So I'm curious, do you think that display models have improved over time? Do you think the score is different than the amount that 32 millimeter models have improved over time?
Score's a lot different.
Okay. Do you think they haven't improved as much, or they've improved more than 32 millimeter models?
They have not improved as much.
Okay. I think we agree then.
Yeah.
I think some of the old ones are pretty much just as good as some of the new ones. So maybe resin casting technology hasn't really changed a whole lot. And also the fact that they're just larger means there are less of the problems that wargaming scale models have to run into.
Yeah,
right?
And mass production is a big part of that too.
Sure.
Yeah, it needs to be able to be mass produced for the smaller stuff that's going to be used for games and that kind of thing. So yeah, the quality for mass production is a whole different can of worms rather than your 500 individual resin cast, spun cast models.
So yeah, I think I'd give the 32 millimeter gaming scale models like a 4.
Yeah, I agree.
And then like display models like a 2.
2. Yeah.
2.5 maybe. Like
I
there are
think
new ideas we're seeing that are cool.
Yeah. I think the final topic that we're going to discuss actually will kind of loop a bunch of these loose ends together, the final thing. But I did mention 3D printing. I agree, 2. And 2 is not to say, I mean, the big asterisk on the 2 for display quality, 54 millimeter, 72, and then display busts. The big asterisk there is amazing artists were able to do that for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And as more artists are having ability to get access to it and maybe learn or maybe find a new revenue stream or a new way for a new audience for their sculpting skills through STL files 3D printing, then that's where I'm seeing it raised to like a 2, where it's like we just have more. There's the door is more wide open now.
Okay.
Okay. So the very last thing I wanted to talk about was I wrote down nerdy shit is mainstream and it makes money.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is this is kind of the thread that's for everything we've talked about and all the things we didn't think to talk about, is that none of this is able to be done 10 years ago because there wasn't a market.
Yeah.
The market has grown, especially since COVID. It's just like kind of exploded. And where there is an opportunity to make money, that's where innovation happens in a capitalist society. And that's what's happening. And that's why you have fancy lights. And that's why there's a new paint range every 3 months. And that's why Games Workshop produces twice as many models as they did 10 years ago. And that's why 3D printers keep coming up with higher and higher technology, because there's a market. And if there's a market, because this has become more welcoming, more all-encompassing, that nerdy stuff, everything, you go back to the start of Marvel Studios and those movies becoming big, up to the Star Wars stuff and the remake of the Star Trek stuff and Lord of the Rings and all these things that came from like Hollywood.
Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah.
They started with Hollywood to be like, oh, all the cool people like say that this was interesting. Now the nerd level rises. And those of us that have liked nerdy stuff since way before any of this was ever cool, we can come out of the woodwork and we can get more involved as an adult and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, it definitely helps. A nice injection of cash, you know?
Yes. So I think this is something that I would just like, this is an immediate 5 out of 5 tendies. That all because the exposure, the ability for all this stuff to be done is I don't even know if this is not even really a thing we're supposed to vote on, but like it's one of those things where it's like I think this is such a vital, important factor is the market. Mm-hmm. The market is so much better than it was 10 years ago, and it's not particularly close. And because of that, we get all these other cool things. We get to have a fucking podcast where we talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And more than 8 people listen to it.
Yep.
Not many more than 8, but more than 8.
This came out in 2016 and get 500 views an episode.
Yep.
And not 20,000 and 30,000 downloads. Sorry, 10,000 downloads for a total of 30,000 listens.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And like we don't even have to like really even do anything, you know? We just show up.
Right. Alex edits it. He does all the hard work.
All right. That's it.
God, I feel like we covered all that. I'm sure we forgot some like specific kinds of things. I didn't even think about 3D printing until
airbrushes maybe, or 3D printing would be a big one, but
yeah, there's certain other specific tools, but I think
those are the main ones.
We kind of hit some, I think, certain boxes that other things could kind of be filed into those other boxes. Mm-hmm. You know, we didn't talk about paintbrushes because, spoiler, that shit ain't changed.
110, baby.
Yeah. It was they've been amazing. They just weren't for us. We just found the best ones for us that have already been made for 150 years.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And now there's companies that make stuff that's for us, but they're just the same things.
Yeah, the same things.
Doesn't mean they're better or worse. Doesn't mean you shouldn't buy them. It just means it already existed.
Nothing changed.
0 tendies.
Welcome to the after party.
Oh, you're a gremlin for sure there,
I'm
bud.
gremlining up, bro.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, for the first portion of this little bonus section, we'll talk about some models that we like from other hobbyists.
Oh, man. What language is this in? Yours?
It's
a person's cat.
Yeah, the picture, yeah. I don't know if it's Korean, Chinese, Japanese. I'm not sure. Oh, I linked you the account. Okay, look at the newest post.
The Night Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, the Skeleton Night Dude.
Skeleton Night Dude.
The fuck, bro?
It's just like, when you like find a painter from East Asia, they just like have a different approach. It's Chinese, by the way.
Okay.
They're in Guangzhou. It hits different. They just paint in a different way. They do different things, and the overall impact is just different. Like if you look at the Knight also looks just a kind of way. And it's kind of hard to describe it because I don't really, I'm not familiar with the techniques and the ideas. It's not like that different, but, it feels different.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it.
Yeah, this undead dude. It's just like a level of like softness.
Yes, there is. What is this model?
I have no idea.
Okay.
At first, I thought it was a Games Workshop model because of the back cloak thing with skulls on it. Felt very Games Workshop, but no, this is not Games Workshop. I don't know what it is. I don't know the scale. Actually, if you look at his hand that's holding it, this thing's big.
Yeah. And like
very big, actually.
Yeah, it's potentially very big. There's a nice amount of crispiness to it. There's a softness. There's a warmth to it. A lot of the colors are very warm. I don't know. It's just like it looks cool and it's different than what I normally see, and so I wanted to kind of throw it up here.
Well, the critique is the bone is too kind of camouflaged.
It's similar to the armor color.
Yeah, they're very same. Yeah. But because it's still so crisp, though, like it's still very readable. So yeah, that's good. I would have made a different color choice, but that's just me. But
just you. A lot of filigree on the armor. All of it's like really shaded and stuff. I would hate painting that. It would take forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of patience that went into this paint job.
Absolutely.
I can tell.
Absolutely.
Ain't no one got time for that.
Ain't no one got time for that. Have you ever seen this model though? The Minotaur?
I've seen that. Yeah, that's by shoot, who makes that? I should know this.
Oh, who makes the model?
Yes.
Oh. I think this painter is the person who painted it though. And this is a classic mini. This is a classic paint job.
Yes. Yeah, with a really strong light from above on the face. That's really kind of spotlighty almost.
Yeah, yeah. And I wish I knew their name. I don't know what their name is. But that model, that Minotaur, I've seen around in so many different places for such a long time. Mm-hmm. So it's apparently
again very like there's a softness and a kind of like harmony while still being crisp.
Yeah.
Like this really yin and yang thing going on here.
Speaking of Greece, okay, do you remember there's a Greek painter who won Best in Show at Crystal Brush with a diorama that's like a knight who has like wings and there's like a book and like he's carrying a damsel in distress kind of thing. Do you know what the painter I'm talking about?
Yes, I know what the piece is. I don't know if I remember who the painter was.
Does it give you the same kind of vibe that this piece gives you? There's a softness to it. There's a warmth to it, but there's also like a sharpness to it as well.
Yes.
I don't remember that person's name, but yeah, that reminded me of that one kind of immediately.
Yes, I like this. This is fun. This is exploring a new painter, and I always like it when you bring one and I don't follow them.
Yeah, I like it too.
And this is great.
I like finding new stuff.
Okay, mine is one that you do follow, I'm sure.
Raffaelestumpoart. Yes. All right, what do we got here?
This is 4 different dragons.
God damn.
There are a couple of them that I specifically love, but these are all kit-bashed dragons that sometimes he's done just a little bit of work, sometimes he's done a lot. I really like these Nurgle dragons, that they're all GW kits, and there's not a ton of green stuff, but it's just kind of like finding a very unique, creating something that's almost a totally different model that is just kit bashing a couple of different kits.
Oh wow! Like it's like a merger of a plague drone and a dragon.
That one's my favorite
in a really satisfying way. Yeah,
yes.
this 5th picture is super fucking cool.
Yeah, just like the weight of the thing with the wings back, like it feels like it's heavy, but its neck is up. It's just like the pose feels very realistic.
This is like a kit that GW should make.
I know.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and that recent Stormcast dragon is just a really cool dragon pose, and he's changed he has a corn guy on top now, and he's turned into a corn dragon.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just like, sometimes I come across these things and it's just a different kind of inspiration, especially kind of in the mindset of like the creating a scene, creating a composition for stuff around Golden Demon, and these kinds of things always hit with me a little harder that time of year. And so this has kind of been jumped out at me, and I've seen him post the individual ones of these, so I just thought I would share this one. So I thought people I don't know how much people like to see kind of people's unique takes on things, and I really appreciate this, and I think it's so cool.
I like it too. If you look at the first single picture of the dragon, number 1, if you look at the 2x2,
yep,
the rightmost dragon head has all those little black spots.
Mm-hmm.
They look like if I were to paint that, I'd paint them all as like eyeballs. You know, like it was like 10 eyeballs on the side of that dragon head. I freaking love that.
It's like this kind of nasty infection of eyeballs popping out.
Yeah. These are great.
It's super fun.
Super.
Aha. Okay, let's get on to critique. Joran Vase. I'm sure that's a hard J.
Hard J.
Joran.
Could be
Fjörgen, Schmürgen, Fjörgen.
It could be
From the fjords.
from the fjords. Could be a Scandinavian. Okay.
We got a display model.
We got an orc display model.
We don't get to see these often.
An orc pirate. Okay.
All right, pirate.
I have some feedback, as I'm sure you do as well.
I have none, actually. Go ahead.
All right. Real quick, looking at the back of the model, I get this vibe that your hand was rubbing the paint off on the skull and crossbones, revealing the white primer or light gray resin from below. This happens very often because you paint the model's front for the majority of the time, and to get stability, you wrap your hand around the back of the model. Part of it looks like it's painted silver, and then the other part looks like it's white.
I think it is painted silver, because if you look at the barrel of the gun in that same picture, there's a strong shine where the light's hitting it from the light for taking the picture. And I think that similar angle is hitting a very chromy thing. I think it is. You painted it as a metallic kind of pattern on there, but you could be right. It could be worn off too.
Maybe that's not that. So we'll leave that be. The other more kind of artistic feedback that I have is that the lapel of his jacket and the inside of his jacket is a desaturated lime green color. His skin tone is a desaturated lime green, kind of swampy color. They're right next to each other. I don't know where his skin on his torso ends and his jacket begins.
Yeah.
They're way too close in hue and in the actual color. And I think some difference there could have been good. Like, what if the lapel was the leather brown color that's kind of warm and in nice contrast from the green, and then the jacket itself maybe went back to green, or some other kind of color. Having that warm brown, kind of like how you have the red pants right next to that skin, gives you a really clean, this is where the torso ends, this is where the jacket begins kind of visual clarity.
Yeah. I think that's my biggest critique of the piece as well. I think overall I really like your color scheme. It's a nice, very satisfying, warm color scheme. But you're right. It took me a while to realize he was bare-chested.
Yeah.
I thought he was wearing a shirt because of that. And I think this goes to like my biggest piece of advice overall is this looks like a very solid start of laying the foundations of your colors with some basic shadows, a little bit brighter areas in there. This is the start.
Yes.
And now everything needs to be built up so it has 3 dimensions to it. There's no bright parts here. There's no, even if that skin is that same green, you don't even need to change the color of that skin. You just need to bring it to life with a lot more boosting of building up some skin tones mixed in with that green. And that should cover 80% of this model. And then do that again with more of the skin tone, less of the green, to build up the highlights there. And then have some funny off colors, maybe more reddish or more pinkish directly on his ears, and then his knuckles should feel more ruddy, and like add a bunch more color variation and depth and really bring especially that skin to life, because it feels very flat right now. And even something like an orc with green skin is a lot of depth, because skin is a very complex thing, and coming in with like glaze of a purple for the shadows in the skin will help differentiate it from all the other very samey warms around it. So it's tough because you're dealing with a display model, which is big. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of things in terms of complexity that you could do, and I like that you were unafraid to tackle this project, because it's not an easy project to tackle. And I think one step. So every time you do a new project, you want to try to push yourself one more step further. That would be my step here, is to push the differentiation between your midtones up to your highlights.
I agree. I like how the color palette has like this vibe, kind of like this. It's almost like you mixed green into everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of, so it has this harmony to it that's really nice.
Yeah, it is a very satisfying color scheme.
I think I personally want to see the crispiness factor kind of just dialed up a little bit more. Like you said, it feels like the foundation of a paint job, and now we need to go in and we need to define all these choices we're making with like more contrast, slightly more smoothness, more intentionality with like the texture. Because like on his butt, there's like a lot of pink kind of spongy texture. And then it's like nowhere else in the jacket.
I know.
And it's like, what, that kind of thing confuses a viewer. It's like, why did you choose to do that? And the moment a viewer, in my opinion, has a question about why you made a choice, they're immediately out of the story of what's going on. They're now questioning your artistic decisions. And so it's like, sometimes it's important to think about that. And it's like, okay, maybe I should include this pink spongy weathering on the elbows of the jacket, on the shoulders, where the sun is striking the model, to kind of give it more context, to make it feel like it belongs more, and to reduce the likelihood of those kinds of questions, I think. So a little bit more intentionality, a little bit more crispiness, but love the scheme.
Thanks for submitting your piece, Joran, and good work. I hope you're keeping at it and you keep with the display models, because I love when people are unafraid to learn painting and their own pace at their own way with display models.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool thing, and please stick with it. So thank you, Joran. And are you listening right now? Have you submitted, bro? Have you even submitted a piece for us to shit on? Have you submitted a topic for the podcast? Have you gone on the YouTube video and submitted an intro for us? Because, listen, we appreciate your money more than anything, but actually not more than anything.
We also want your ideas.
We also we want to suck your soul through your ass teeth.
They came back, yes.
Full circle. We can finish up this episode now. Okay, next, something new, Scott.
So I did what I call actual OSL, which is like, when I do OSL in a simple way, I might just squirt some airbrush juice on there and call it a good day,
Every time you squirting is good, baby.
Yeah, baby. So basically, so I wanted to paint a model from the ground up with a significant object source lighting detail. And there's a lot of questions that come with that. It's okay, I have my light source from the left. Is there a light source from above? Is it a daytime light source? Is it a nighttime light source? How strong is it in comparison to this green flame that this lady is holding? Like, does a green light cast green shadows? There's just so much shit. There's so much shit to think about. And I was trying to think about all those things. So like a little bit on like the top of the hat and on her shoulder here, you kind of identified that I went to purple. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to use kind of a fun color. So I used purple and black mixed together, and I mixed that into my navy blue color. And then like on the arm and on the top of the hat, I mixed a desaturated blue into the purple, bluish indigo color to get like a moonlight light, but it ain't selling at all. Like, I know it ain't selling at all. And it's just like, it's so difficult to balance the two. So like the effect of the green comes through, but it isn't totally trampled by turtles, by the light source of turtles.
Yes.
Any other light source, And it's like, so the way I did it was I mixed green into all of the colors. Another way you could have done this is by just painting the model like it's illuminated from her hand, and then glazing it with green. I suppose would be a way to do that. But like the green light is going to affect the different colors differently.
Yes.
Like, I think an area where I fucked up is the khaki. Obviously, because khaki is white, it's going to take more green color than a dark navy blue jacket would, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, you don't get that for free when you mix paint.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of happens, but it really depends on the color you use. Like, I used an AK 3rd Gen khaki color, and it must have a lot of pigment in it. Because when I mixed a light chartreuse green in, it didn't change much at all. And so like it comes down to like overcoming that. It's like, oh yeah, it should work that way. I mixed the color. That's how light works, right? Wrong. It's actually the opposite system. It's additive with real light and subtractive with real physical paint. And so it's like, there's just so many fucking hurdles and so many areas to mess up. And you kind of find all the areas to mess up when you give it a real shot. And that's what I kind of find out. I find out all these things. I don't know how I necessarily do it different a second time, but I'm kind of aware of my shortcomings now.
Yeah. I mean, you see how especially with an airbrush, like you know El Miniaturista is. He's the fucking
Yeah.
OSL dude.
And that's kind of, he has like a hybrid approach, right?
Yeah, it's mostly airbrush. But the main thing that he does, especially because he's using most often fluorescence, like super punchy colors, is that he does it all in white. And then he puts the color over the top. So you're making a very clean distinction of how the strong light of an edge would be brightest, and then he like airbrushes the pure white, but it's like it's very faint, this diluted ink from the airbrush, and then he goes over with the color, and then it's just like, boof, you can see that. But it's also done almost to like a cartoonish level where it's so over dramatic, and it very quickly goes to that place that we were talking about earlier, where it's just like, I don't even know what color any of this shit is because everything is hit by like
Explosions and bullets and
yeah. There's so many lights here. I'm like, is this silver armor? I honestly can't tell.
Yeah. He does power armor a lot with his OSL stuff, and power armor has like a certain kind of finish, right? It's like kind of glossy, and that's another thing that is interesting with OSL is that each material is going to take on light in a different way based on how reflective it is, right? And so it's like, fucking A, dude. Painting models is already hard enough. Like, this just really makes it challenging. Yeah. But yeah, so I want to keep trying. I want to keep getting better at it.
Yeah. Okay, the thing I did was, I just want to talk about the takeaway from the painting the giant titties here.
I saw someone make a friendship bracelet, and it said Tutussi on it. And I was just like, what the fuck, dude?
Oh, boy. So, the big thing that I took away from this was like, I do it some, but I feel like I need to double down on really creating the drama, the impact, the power in a piece with color and light from the get-go before I ever start dealing with details, because it was so pivotal to this piece, and I basically didn't just basically dip my toe into details at the end. They didn't have to do much, but that's not the way miniature painting works. There's a lot of stuff there that to really define shapes and to really make it, understand what you're looking at that small scale. But too quickly, we just jump into focusing on a detail and like making sure that I get the edges of all this part of his belt and everything correctly and the little scratches and blah, blah, blah. But like, have you created the drama and the impact with color? Is it as bright and saturated as you want it? Do you have the lights the way that you want them? Do you have the basic transition of colors and blends or whatever all kind of figured out? Because that's so much harder and sometimes, I don't want to say impossible, but not obtainable later on. You can't establish a really interesting, inspiring, like powerful green color in the last 20% of the paint job.
Yes, there needs to be a framework, a foundation laid. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm just like, I find like, when I look back at some of the paint jobs where I'm like, oh, solid, but things that I've done in the last couple of years that I look back and they're really lacking, I'm like, that's what I didn't do. I didn't start it off with the, screaming hot, something. I don't even say use bright colors. I'm just saying like, make your statement.
Yeah, lean into it.
Yeah, make your statement from the beginning and then refine that clay, and then define those sharp edges and stuff. But like, it's too easy to fall into that trap. And I am as guilty as anyone of like, just kind of getting pigeonholed into, it's when we do all the edge highlighting and we got to make sure that, and I'm like, no, that's not what really is impactful.
Yeah. You kind of paint yourself into a corner.
Yeah. It's important that it's there, but that's kind of the stuff that you got to do. But where you really want to make your piece, unique and everything, it's like you gotta punch it up from there. So that's what I'm going to take away from this. I'm going to see what happens. Happens.
Yeah, you should just like the next model just fucking go crazy with like environmental and light and
17
shadow.
lights.
Yeah, 17 lights, and then just see what happens. It's like you do a shotgun, and then you trim and you trim and you trim and you trim, and then maybe you add a little bit back more. You let it breathe a little bit more, and it's like, okay, now I've arrived somewhere. I shot high, I came down, and I kind of float right up to where I want to be.
Yeah,
it's like
don't be afraid to come back in with large swaths of color again, especially through an airbrush. And the one thing that I've learned, and actually think that I would have improved or done better on this, was go more bright and powerful, not just with white, but really potent, punchy colors in the brush steps, because then when you go back through with the tints and stuff later, you can control how much you kind of harness certain areas and how much you want those to be there. But then because they had that foundation of a brighter, punchier, more vibrant thing, you still have the potential that your highest ceiling is still there.
Yeah.
And then you could always build up off of it if you hone it in, let it go strong again, hone it in. Like you can do that accordion kind of thing that I think really helps you a lot. So
The only other thing I'll say about that, the flip side of that is that sometimes you can go a little bit too far, and it really comes down to specific colors. So like if I want to like paint like a white color that's like kind of green, it's very easy to mix too much green into your white and then not have enough headroom to end up at white where you want to.
The surface isn't white anymore.
Yeah. So maybe for like darker colors, that's less of a problem. But like for lighter colors, I really struggle with that. And so I find that I have to be incredibly sparing with like how much I like kind of bake in an idea with white or light color. And I do a little bit more adjustment at the end, glazing in colors and stuff like that, just because I'm trying to like really sneak up to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I dig it. That's what we learned.
Welcome to the end of the podcast. Thank you for hanging out all the way to the end. We appreciate your dedication to our stories about Space Marine buttholes and food poisoning.
Yeah, I hope that one day I can shit and vomit again at the same time.
Why do you want that? I really wouldn't want anyone to experience that. It was awful.
It is. But I wanted to feel empathy for you.
I also want that purge, you know? You want to feel empty.
Yeah.
Body, soul, and spirit, man.
Oh, that's not the kind of purge I want to participate in.
If you guys like the podcast and you want to support it, there are a number of ways that you can do that, both free and not free. Most of those things are linked down in the show notes or description below, depending on where you're listening. Giving us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, telling your nerd friends about our podcast, spreading the good word. Those are all great ways to do it for free. We play an ad every 30 minutes on our YouTube episode. So if you whitelist our channel, you'll get an ad and we'll get a little extra CPM from that. If you got some cash to spend, you can spend it on some Tup merch, linked down in the show notes, some t-shirts, some pants, some cups. Or you can consider investing in our Patreon to get an extra 20 minutes of content per episode where we discuss models that we love from other painters, techniques we've tried out and experimented with, both positive and negative results. And also we give feedback to one of your minis. As a patron, you could submit models for us to give feedback to, and you can also submit topics for us to discuss along with that at the same time. This week's episode, and honestly the last two, have all been viewer questions and topics. So thank you so much for that content. We appreciate it. Hopefully we're doing it justice.
All right, we're going to be back in a fortnight. Until then, we'll catch you on the
Flippity flop.